Thomas Paine, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin. These men spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberties as freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the Ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
Abraham Lincoln said these words, "It is the duty of nations, as well as of men, to own their dependence upon the overruling power of God, and to recognize the sublime truth announced in the Holy Scriptures and proven by all history, that those nations only are blessed whose God is the Lord." How true. Good morning, everybody. Here comes Kate Smith, and God bless America on a Wednesday morning, May 11th. Good morning, good morning. Oh, good morning and welcome to Zeb at the Ranch. I'm Zeb Bell on a Wednesday morning, and we're brought to you by our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you, and of course some of our great advertisers like Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. Call 734-6969. Right now, without further ado, let's be patriotic and get our Pledge of Allegiance in here right now. Good morning.
Good morning. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Jerry. God bless you, man, for calling in. Nice to see you yesterday, too. Thank you so much. All right, there he goes.
May the Lord bless.
He did, Jerry. Thank you. Very, very nice family. Jerry and Rose Voss, thank you very, very much. Right now it's time for the weather, and I think it's going to be really pleasing to a lot of people. Let's have the weather brought to you by Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Look for the blue door. And they say, hey, you know what you can do? Use a patterned wallpaper to strengthen a room and an unpatterned paper to soften the spaces up a little bit. Well, they've got all of that for you over at Cheney Flooring and Home Design. Carpet and flooring, kitchen construction, home decor items, whatever you need to make your house a home. Right now, here's Gina with the weather.
There's an issue with the weather this morning, sir.
What is the issue, Wheels?
Gina must have not had it created and didn't have it loaded, but I will definitely talk to her.
All right, thank you. And the weather forecast, I think, is going to be around 68, 69 for a high today, and we are expecting sunshine conditions. So there you go. We'll have more, I guarantee you, with the weather a little bit later, brought to you by Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Look for the blue door. Right now, your calls are welcome and appreciated. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. And we certainly want to wish all of our political folks a great big good luck coming up next Tuesday, May 17th, including Tim Darrington, Cassia County Commissioner, running for District 3. Lifelong resident of Cassia County and a steward of the land as a farmer and a rancher. And he wants to provide good roads, safe environment, and a great quality of life. Don't forget, he wants what's best for the citizens of Cassia County now and for future generations. Vote for Tim Darrington, Cassia County Commissioner, District 3, paid for by the Darrington for Commissioner Committee, Gail Erickson, Treasurer. And speaking of May 17th, That is vote day, and I've told you many times that on behalf of Senator Kelly Anthon, Representative Fred Wood, and the Speaker of the House, Scott Bedke, don't forget to vote on May 17th. That is correct. It is a patriotic duty of all of us, so get to the polls and take your picture ID for identification. Be proud of who you are. That's right. Go vote on May 17th, paid for by Senator Kelly Anthon, Representative Fred Wood, and House Speaker Scott Bedke. Your calls would be appreciated. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Give us a jingle on the landline right now. Right now, currently, and this is a little bit more than spooky, right this minute, the United States of America has the lowest number of active duty soldiers since 1940. We are at the lowest level of active duty soldiers for the last 76 years. And with so many threats and dangers that are going on right now than ever before, what are your thoughts about not being able to protect ourselves and our allies? I point the finger at Obama's administration with his lack of respect and his lack of caring and his lack of really watching out for us. With a military that has been just absolutely scaled down to a point, think about this, at the levels of 76 years ago. Now, I don't want anybody to call me and say, oh, well, we got to save money. No. A strong country is a strong ally to those that depend on us, which they do, and a strong country will not have the invasion or all the problems that we are starting to incur. Our enemies know that we are at a weakened point right now, and all of us should be very, very concerned. And for what reason? For what real reason have we cut our military back to levels of 76 years ago? Think about it and give me your thoughts. I've got my own, and none of them are very red, white, and blue for Obama, I'll tell you that. We are spread so thin right now, any sinister plot could be devastating. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Don't forget Denny's Restaurant at 611 Overland and Burley, America's Diner. Oh, the food is delicious over there. You're going to love it. And they've got another location at 291 Pole Line in Twin Falls. Absolutely great breakfast and lunch and dinner choices and great desserts. I mean, really, it is America's Diner. Thomas and Terry, the whole crew serving you, and it's the home of Zeb's Lunch Bunch. And our next Lunch Bunch is going to be on May 26th. So everybody try to be there. You can go in anytime. America's Diner, Denny's Restaurant. Also, don't forget Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. And the number to call, and if you've got some kind of a small item, like maybe light bulbs or wiring or something you can pick up, call ahead. They'll have it waiting for you at 678-0459. They're open 7:30 in the morning till 5 Monday through Friday. And I wish you'd give them a call and stop in. They have really done a great job for over 50 years serving you. Ramsey Heating and Electric in Burley. Really good folks. All right, let's start the calls. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. We are right now working on and hopefully going to finalize today getting a very, very prestigious guest on our program, and one that grew up in a very well-known political family. And we're going to have, hopefully on the 23rd of this month, Thank you very much, Wheels. It's a little bit late. On the 23rd of this month, we are looking forward to having Michael Reagan on the program, Ronald Reagan's son, and we're working through a couple of sources right now to get that solidified for, I think, the 10:30 segment on Monday the 23rd. So, boy, if we get him on the air, it's going to be an interesting segment. He's got a book about his dad that he's going to be talking about, and some of the heartwarming experiences within the Reagan family. So I'm looking forward to having Michael Reagan on our program on the 23rd. Good morning, caller. You're on the air. Go ahead, please.
Good morning, Zeb.
Hi there.
You know, this deal of diluting our military is just disgusting. You know, the streets come from who's the biggest and the best, and that's where we were, but we're nothing now. Yeah, I go back to about in the 80s when President Reagan was in office, and the situation in Grenada. They tried to flex their muscles, and we went in there, and within 3 or 4 days, we had it all handled.
Let me ask you something, Keith.
Very little loss of life, if any.
Yeah.
And it just goes to show you, if you're not ready, you're going to lose.
Well, let me ask you this. There's a lot of people in this country right now that have lost sight of what America is, what it was, and what it should be. And there's a lot of younger people in this country, the millennials, and a lot of their idiotic liberal teachers at high schools and colleges that are not preaching and teaching about how great this country has been to be a beacon of hope for the entire world. I am absolutely sick and tired of the demise that's caused by us and our so-called leadership. And the big dog is the one that can protect everybody else. And right now, if we have levels of soldiers, active duty soldiers, that is the same as what it was in 1940, honestly, are you not just a little bit worried?
I am very worried, and one of the reasons why I'm worried is because these people, young people, some of them grew up and their parents and their grandparents and everything had served in the military. And since they were young, they look forward to being able to serve. And then we have a commander-in-chief that wants to come in there with you're going to have the intention of having a career out of the military. And he wants to kick you out when you get about 10 years in.
We do not have...
A lot of people are not wanting to do this for a career.
Absolutely. We do not have, and I'm not correcting you, I'm just correcting the statements. We do not have, in my opinion, a commander-in-chief. We have nothing more than a man with a jackknife and a piece of wood that is whittling away our military, our strength, and our security.
Well, you know, I know you're a great fan of football, and so I'm going to use this analogy. If you were a coach for a high school and you only had 5 people turn out for the team, and you got these other teams that have got these guys that are really raring to go and everything, it's the same thing. You're going to lose.
Absolutely.
You don't have enough people on the floor, on the field, you're going to lose because you'll have to forfeit or play with 5 players, and you're going to lose either way.
I agree with you. I'm very concerned about this, and I want to hear what the rest of the audience has got to say about this morning. Keith, thank you so much. God bless you for your call. I appreciate it.
You bet.
Thank you. Calls welcome. What do you think about our military being down to the levels of 76 years ago? That is before I was born. Yeah, I'm an old guy, but I'm not that old. And it's just very, very scary and very worrisome to me to think that we are down to those levels. And some of the equipment, both for the Army and the Navy, are absolutely antiques that are being renovated and basically trying to keep some of the ships afloat. My goodness. Don't forget Cutting Edge Curbing at 424 16th Street in Rupert. Number to call 808-3360. Sarah and Mike Baxter can give you an estimate on curbing that will really add beauty and value to your property. Check it out today. Different colors, different stamping, different styles. All of this for the enhancement beauty of your home. Cutting Edge Curbing, 424 16th Street in Rupert. Call today, 808-3360. Yes, I was over yesterday to see Nick Greenwell, physical therapist at Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation. Yes, we have a schedule to work on. Yes, I'm looking forward to it, and you should do the same. Call them at 678-1191, and they're located at 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. Oh my goodness, all the exercises, all the sports medicine, and the hydrotherapy pool with the treadmill. You'd better not put it off. They can help you to get back to being you. Give them a call today, 678-1191, Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation. All right, calls are welcome. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Maybe you're not concerned about our military. Maybe you're not concerned about our security. Maybe you think that we're living in a land of, all is well, don't worry about anything. Well, I am very, very concerned about these cutbacks. And I've listened to a lot of the generals and leaders of our military. I've had many of them on our program. I remember General Thomas McInerney on our program, and you've seen him many, many times on Fox News and other news networks. He is extremely concerned about what's going on with our military. Oliver North, Colonel Oliver North. I've met the man. I've talked to the man personally. And he is extremely concerned about what's going on or not happening in our military. Caller, I appreciate your call. Give me 30 seconds. I'll be right there. Don't forget Minidoka County Sheriff Eric Snar running for re-election, a working sheriff out in the field doing any job necessary to work and serve you. His promise is to do the best he can for you every single day, and he's waging a winning war on drugs in Minidoka County. Don't forget May 17th, vote for Minidoka County Sheriff Eric Snar, paid for by Re-elect Eric Snar, Jason Gibbons, Secretary. Caller, thank you. Good morning. You're on the air.
You know, across this nation, developing countries, especially China, are building exact replicas of our aircraft carriers, our fighters, our bombers, because of Rimmer and Clinton gave all that information away, Bill Clinton, and just before he left office. However, all that was, but it's a fact that he did it. And then, of course, the Chinese hacking into our, websites and everything else they do. I mean, literally, they spend all day trying to hack into government sites to steal information from us. And we act like it doesn't matter. I mean, that's all they do. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Randy,
these people are building up a force over there, and then the manpower that they could put on the boots on the ground would just overwhelm us. Their army could be bigger than the population of America. Soldiers.
You know, Randy, listen to me just a second, and I think the whole statement of our military being weakened down and milked down to a level of 76 years ago is really indicative, and it shows exactly how ridiculous the situation is when you look at Russian fighter pilots going over our ships at only about 30 feet in height above the ship. They are laughing at us. They know we're not going to do anything, and it's absolutely a critical situation.
Well, it's just like this. It's like, the rules of engagement. So I'm at school, and I slug a girl in the mouth, and nobody can do anything about it, you see?
Yeah.
I just get to walk away and think I'm some sort of a stud or something. You see what I'm saying?
I do.
We can't even engage these people because of the Obama administration's rule of engagement and how we're supposed. It's so frustrating. It's infuriating. And another day, and then Obama is going to apologize for Hiroshima and Nagasaki, which in essence saved millions of Japanese and American lives. But you see, he's going to go over there and apologize.
Well, now, wait a minute. In fairness to the situation, nobody knows for sure what the man will say when he goes over to Hiroshima. Nobody really knows. And I'm going to be fair, and I'm going to try to be balanced until the man opens his mouth and does apologize. If that happens, Randy, I'm going to be extremely critical again of Obama. But I've got to give the devil his dues. Until that happens, and until it's specified that he did try to apologize, I can't be critical because that's all speculation.
Well, at the top of the hour, every hour, the news we hear, yesterday they implied or even said that he was going to go over there and apologize.
I know, but until it's done, you got to put yourself in my place. Until it's done, I am not going to do or say anything because it's got to be a fact before I criticize.
But you see, I don't know, we've just got to, something's got to change.
Oh, amen. Amen to that. And I'll tell you, with people like you involved, and we're going to be the squeaky wheels, my friend. I'm not going to quit. Thanks. I got to run and do a news break, and I'll be right back. Thank you very much. I appreciate his calls. Yep, and a lot of people are speculating that Obama will go over there and apologize for what happened to Hiroshima in World War II. And if that happens, boy, you better believe this bully pulpit is going to come after him like a dog chasing a cat. I'll guarantee you that. Don't forget Shirley Halford Hubbard, Cassia County Commissioner, District 3. She wants your vote on May 17th. And she says, you know what? If you want fair and equal representation for all of Cassia County, vote for her. Shirley Halford Hubbard for District 3 County Commissioner. She said we need to preserve agriculture and make sure it prospers in each community in our county. Don't forget May 17th, Shirley Halford Hubbard for District 3 County Commissioner and Lois Reinhardt, Treasurer. I want to also say thank you very much to Barry Equipment and Rental. They've been with us for quite some time on this program, and they have all the equipment to get the job done right. I really mean that. Whatever you're looking for, Doosan loaders, Bobcat equipment, Coyote tractors, Walker lawnmowers, Steel equipment, Hildy, it's all there at Barry Equipment and Rental. 3 locations to serve you, South Lincoln and Jerome, Addison Avenue West in Twin Falls, and 159 West Highway 30 in Burley. I don't know how they cram all that equipment into their property. Holy smokes, it's there waiting for you, and they've got great deals on Bobcat right now. Check it out. Great financing on rental units. They have the equipment to get the job done right at Barry Equipment and Rental. Oh, my. Calls are welcome. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I'd like to hear from you. We are going to have, in just a few minutes, a guest on the program. I don't normally schedule anybody in the first hour. But this man is a dear friend of ours and wants to talk about a problem that unfortunately is growing all across America, and that's bullying. And Scott Cameron's going to be on the air with us in just a couple of seconds, so stand by. I want to remind you, too, about the lovely Dr. Christine Pickup, Doctor of Audiology at Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids. Do not forget to call and schedule a hearing screening. It's not going to hurt you. It's absolutely kind of fun and very, very enriching as far as finding out what your hearing problems are or potentially could be. So you check it out today. Call 312-0957. Make an appointment with Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids, located across from the Minidoka Hospital Emergency Room. You call them today. Once again, I want to remind you that in just a moment, Scott's going to be on the air. I want to remind you, too, on Mondays, we give away a half dozen cinnamon rolls on Mondays from Sophie's Chatterbox, 530 East Street in Rupert. Whoa, what a bakery, and whoa, what a restaurant. You're going to love it. Stop over there right on the square in Rupert. And don't forget, Monday at 8:31, we will be giving away a half dozen cinnamon rolls if you can answer the question of the day. Don't forget. Let's check with Wheels and see if Scotty's over there waiting by the microphone. Is he there?
Yes, sir.
All right, we'll get right to him. Stand by. Ramsey Heating and Electric and Lennox, offering qualified home comfort systems. Whether it's a gas furnace, an air conditioner, or a heat pump, you and your family will always enjoy the comfort. Ramsey Heating and Electric and Lennox, saving you money. Good morning, Scotty Cameron, dear friend. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Well, this time of the year in political season, I'm a galloping horse in the pack.
Things are getting a little hot and heavy, that's for sure.
You know, Scotty, you mentioned in a phone call yesterday to me that you wanted to talk for a couple of minutes about a problem that your family has incurred. Go ahead and give us the background on this.
Well, on Monday, my daughter was assaulted, and this has been kind of an ongoing thing. There's been some bullying that has been going on, and she received a broken nose. She was knocked unconscious, and she was beat up pretty good. And so we spent some bunch of time in the emergency room and got her all patched up and ready to go. But even after this, the bullying is continuing. And so what we want to do is try to help raise some awareness, for bullying. We all know that it exists. We all know that it happens. And, sometimes when it really strikes home with you, to be honest with you, I'll tell you, I feel really, really powerless to protect my daughter.
Let me ask you a couple of questions right there, Scotty, and I don't mean to interrupt you, but I want to make some points. You know, when you had the call come in that your daughter had been assaulted and beaten, and I understand that she was knocked unconscious, knocked teeth out, is that correct?
No, but her nose was broken.
I see. Yeah. As a parent, what is your first reaction, and especially a father? I know how I would react, but what did you do?
First thing, my reaction, I just wanted to make sure she was okay. That was first and foremost, to make sure she was okay. I knew that she'd been assaulted, and I knew she'd been beat up really good. And so my first concern was to find out and make sure she was okay.
And then what happened after that?
Well, I think as a father, you go through kind of the whole gambit of emotions first, and then you get sad and you start grieving the fact that your daughter is in this shape, and you're upset because of that. And then, of course, you get angry.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that anger, and I'll be honest with you, Zeb, I wanted to go out and I wanted to find who did this, and I wanted to have some sort of revenge, but I knew that was not the way to go, because violence only begets violence. And that it starts you go down that rabbit hole, and there's no way back.
Okay, now let me just state how I would feel, and then you've been through this, and so what's happening now? Number one, I would feel the same thing. I would feel a rage, and I would want something done immediately. Now, if this has been precipitated before against your daughter, why hasn't there been basically a school watch to make sure that her health and safety is more concerning to the school officials?
That's one of the questions that we have. We've been working with the school on this for a couple of years now, and there are supposed to be things in place to prevent stuff like this from happening, and it's not happening. And that's one of the areas of outrage that I have, is why wasn't something done to protect my daughter? Why? We trust these officials with the lives of our most precious things that we have, and then I honestly feel let down and betrayed by those in power that were supposed to make sure that this was not allowed to happen.
Well, I will say this, that in an age where we see violence taking and occurring many people's health and lives, especially a story from back east not too many days ago where a young woman was brutally beaten and died in a restroom attack, I want to know the reasons as to if this had been precipitated before against your daughter and the assailants were known to the officials. A, why weren't their parents involved? Why wasn't there more scrutiny? And B, why wasn't there absolute warnings to the assailants that that's it, you can't do this again or you're out of here, and reform school or whatever is looming on the horizon?
You know, and I agree with that. And we have tried working with the parents at this point, and I'll be honest with you, the parents of the individual who assaulted my daughter came out to the bus stop and threatened my daughter again yesterday.
The parents threatened your daughter?
Yes, sir.
Now, I got to tell you something right now. That absolutely puts me into a fit of rage as I think of it. But what was any kind of cognitive thought that they would come and blame your daughter or make statements of perhaps a future attack? Why?
You know, that's really a good question, Zeb. I don't have an answer to that, but I do know that our trust level with the school officials and things is down, and luckily yesterday we had people in place to be there to make sure that our daughter was protected, and I'm glad of it, because had there not been, I don't know what would have happened.
Okay, now, I'm going to ask you a favor. Would you be able to stay just a couple of more minutes? I've got some more questions, but I've got to get these ads in. Could you do that?
Absolutely.
All right, Scotty Cameron on the air with us this morning talking about bullying, and it hit home with him because of a case with his daughter. We'll have more with him in just a moment. Don't forget, re-elect Jay Heward for Cassia County Sheriff on May 17th, a man that's been in police work for over 36 years and has a knowledge of the job through experience and hard work. He's the Cassia County Emergency Manager, and Jay knows what to do. Jay knows his job and his constitutional responsibilities, and he wants your vote on May 17th. Re-elect Jay Heward for Cassia County Sheriff, paid for by Steve Westfall, Treasurer of the committee. Thank you very much. Also, don't forget, for the Idaho Supreme Court, we've got people that we want to talk about, including Clive Strong for Idaho Supreme Court Justice. Clive Strong knows the issues that are very important to Idaho and its future regarding water, timber, mining, and grazing, and he has been a longtime chief of Natural Resource Division for the Idaho Attorney General's office. And he's argued cases before the United States Supreme Court and the Idaho Supreme Court. Don't forget, on May 17th, Clive Strong for Idaho Supreme Court Justice, paid for by former state representative Bert Stevenson. You know, Scotty, I can't even imagine what you went through as a father and a parent over this situation. It did not happen to me with my son or daughter, so I really don't know. But going through the proper channels, what do you suggest? Did you get law enforcement involved? Have you had a meeting with the principal and the school board? I mean, what have you done and what needs to be done?
Well, law enforcement is involved, and there's a current investigation going right now. And, there's always two sides of every story, and I understand that. So I'm putting my faith in the justice system and law enforcement that through their investigations they'll uncover, exactly what happened and what was precipitated, and the justice will be done. So that is one thing that we're doing. We've discussed this type of stuff with the school before, and at this point, we don't feel like we're being heard. So we've organized a walk against bullying. And what we're going to do, Friday at 2 o'clock, we're going to start out at the Rupert Square. We are going to walk down to the Minidoka School District office, and we're going to have signs, and we're going to have, people. We're going to be there with a PA, and we are going to send a message as a community that this type of stuff will not be tolerated. As a community, we are going to stand up and say, no, this will not happen. And, I'll be honest with you. There's been a lot of talk about this on social media, and a lot of hateful words, and a lot of fighting, and a lot of threats have been precipitated, and that's not what we want. We don't want that. We want everybody to please just stop the cycle of violence that's going on. It does not need to continue. Violence is not an answer. Violence is not the solution, to this thing. I know that sometimes you have to stand up and defend yourself and for what's right, and I get that. But at the same time, let's not precipitate this. Let's all come together as a community and not let this tear us apart. Let us all become one voice to be heard to say we are not going to stand for violence, and those that precipitate violence will have to suffer consequences. As a community, we will not put up with that.
All right, now, let me ask you these questions. First of all, do you think, and this is from your father's standpoint, your viewpoint, Do you think that too much today is given of the poor perpetrator? He must or she must have come from a broken home, or she had these problems, or he had these problems. I am not so concerned about the perpetrator today as I am the victims on a continual basis. How would you respond to what I just said?
You know, I do think that there's some of that, but I don't really think, I don't think that's an excuse. You know, Zeb, I've been through some hardships in my life, and I didn't make it through those by sitting around and trying to blame my circumstances or to blame what was happening to me.
Yeah.
I got through those and became a better person by accepting the consequences for the actions that I've done and moving past those and not blaming anyone but myself and saying, you know, I was the one at fault. And that's what these perpetrators need to do. Regardless of who it is, they need to say, look, I made a wrong choice. I'm going to suffer my consequences, and I'm going to go forth and not do anything.
But, you know, Scotty, what's got to happen here, and again, I fall back on your relationship with the problem closer than mine. What's got to happen here is got to go back to the home. It's got to go back to mom and dad. It's got to go back to parental discussions, and even that, it's got to go back to parental guidance and the administering of a yes and no attitude in the home. Would you agree with that or not?
110%, Zeb. I would, you know, due to the fact, you know, that this, and I'll be honest with you, without getting into too much detail, but, you know, the person that assaulted my daughter, and then I see things from other family members of that person, you know, resorting to violence, still talking about violence. Well, so-and-so needs to be whipped, and so-and-so needs this, and then they're folks confronting my daughter again and threatening us, and I think it's very endemic to the home environment.
Absolutely. We have a caller with a question, and boy, I'm running late, so caller, quickly, go ahead, please.
Oh, I don't have a question. I just wanted to comment. You know, Scotty and Amber are wonderful people. And their children, I've been around them on several different occasions. They're wonderful children, good kids. You know, for this to happen, and for the parents of the other girl to come out and threaten, I'm sorry, I'm the kind of person, somebody would have been going to jail. It probably would have been me. But I admire Scotty and Amber for their stalwarthy on protecting their daughter. Go after the school district. They should have been there to protect your child. And I will be there on Friday to walk with you. You guys have a wonderful day.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much, caller. And, Scotty, real quick, I need to ask you this. In the time interim between the actual event of the assault to now, has there been discussions with the leadership of the school district to where you feel like you're getting some answers?
No, sir. No, to be honest with you at this point, like I mentioned before, we have been involved with the school for years now on this, and has progressively gotten worse and worse, and now we're at the point where my daughter's been assaulted, and I don't feel like I'm being heard. So I need help.
Okay. What I will say is this. Now, correct me if I'm wrong on this, Scott. This week Friday at 2 p.m. at the Rupert Square, there is going to be a march to the Minidoka School office. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. We're meeting there at 2. Please, everybody, bring banners, bring some signs, and say, you know, and I want to drive this point home. This is a peaceful event. Okay. We will not tolerate any violence. I know that the police officers of Rupert know about this event, and they will be there. And if there is any violence that's perpetrated, if things get out of line, this will be shut down, and that is not the point of this event. We need this to be a peaceful event so that we can take our voices and let them be heard.
All right.
There will not be any tolerance for any violence. That is what has caused this situation to begin with, and it cannot be allowed to continue.
All right, now I'm going to ask you a favor. I'm going to keep plugging this march for Friday at the Rupert Square. I'll keep it on my program, but I would really appreciate, I'm not on the air Friday, and I won't have anything from you until Monday. I want you to come back on the air next Monday and tell us exactly what's going on.
Absolutely, we would love to be able to do that. And just like I said, this is as a voice as a community to stand up and say we will not deal with violence and we will not resort to violence in order to get that point across.
All right. I want to wish the very best to you and God's blessings to your daughter. And Scott Cameron, thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you, sir.
All right, sir. Thank you very much. Boy, I hate to rush things through. I've got to get a commercial in here, and then also we've got to get a weather forecast, so stand by for that. I want to remind you that Cliff Katona is running for Twin Falls County Sheriff. That's right. He has spent many, many years, 28 years of distinguished law enforcement for the state of Idaho, and 19 actually of those years as an Idaho State policeman. He wants the Twin Falls County Sheriff's Department to grow with Magic Valley, and he wants to be a visible sheriff in the community, addressing people's concerns. Don't forget to vote for Cliff Katona for Twin Falls County Sheriff on May 17th, paid for by the committee, Katona for Twin Falls County Sheriff, Jim Woolley, chairman. Right now it's time for the weather, and the weather is brought to you by Urgent Cares. Oh my goodness, Riverview Urgent Care in Burley, Urgent Care of Jerome, and Urgent Care in Twin Falls. Minor emergencies, major care. No appointments necessary. It's quicker and less expensive. Just walk in. They will take care of you. Right now, here's the weather with Gina.
It's the middle of the week, and we are on the downhill slide for the weekend, and we've got to be thankful for that. Sunny skies for today, high of 66. Tonight, low of 38. Tomorrow, it's going to be even nicer, sunny and 77. Mostly sunny and 83 for Friday, partly cloudy and 83 for Saturday. And as we get into Sunday, more clouds are going to be rolling in, and we do have a slight chance of some afternoon rain showers on Sunday. That's your weather for Zebeth Ranch.
No, I appreciate it, Gina. Thank you. And, of course, the Urgent Cares, Kyle James, and all of his staff, they absolutely can and will take care of you. So please remember Riverview Urgent Care in Burley, Urgent Care of Jerome, and Urgent Care in Twin Falls. Like I said, minor emergencies, major care. Oh my, we've got a lot of things cooking here this morning. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I don't know how I'd react. I admire the fortitude that Scotty just showed, and I really admire his doing things in the proper channel and going through the proper channels, but also making sure that officials know this better not happen again. I respect that. Thank you, Scotty, for taking some time to come on our program here this morning. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I can't say this in all cases, but I'm going to say it the way I feel. I honestly think all of these problems go back to the home. They go back to the parents. Mom and Dad, listen. I'm not saying and pointing my finger at each and every one of you in all cases as an all-encompassing damnation of parents. But in most cases, it is your fault. In most cases, little Johnny or Susie needs some real strong parental guidance and reprimands. Caller, I'll be right there. Don't forget Mini-Cash Sales, 1321 East Main Street in Burley, right across from the airport. And if you've got money coming back on tax returns, you already got it, well, then spend it on remodeling your home. Zach and the rest of the crew have all the lumber packages, all the shingles for a replacement of your roof. They've got all the windows. They got everything over there at Mini-Cash Sales, 1321 East Main Street in Burley. Great people. You stop in and see them today. And they sponsor Dr. History on Tuesdays at 10:06. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, sir. I feel for Scotty, and that would be something very, very, very hard to handle. I mean, you'd have to do a lot of praying to do it right.
Well, you would. And, Doug, I can't speak from experience because I did not have that happen to my children when they were here at home. But I think he's doing it the right way. But also he's taking a proactive stance in organizing this walk on Friday at 2 p.m. around the Rupert Square to the Minidoka School office to let people know if they're the officials, they better do their job.
Exactly, and that's what more Americans need to do to all of our officials.
That's the truth. That's really the truth, whether it's on a political basis or on a bullying basis or any basis. Go to the top. Don't work with the underlings. Go to the top.
Exactly. Like my granddad told me one time, and it stuck with me all these years. He says, never take no from someone who can't say yes.
That's exactly right. I'm so glad you brought that up, Doug, because I've been accused of some power plays, if you will, because I refuse to talk to somebody that is at the second or third level. I go right to the top. If I can't get a number for that person at the top, I ignore the situation because I'm not going to talk to somebody that says, well, I'll have to check back. I'll give you a perfect example. You go to buy a car, and you make a deal with the salesman. You say, this is what I'll give you for this car. Oh, well, I got to go check with my sales manager. Hey, if you're not smart enough or have the ability, I don't even want to talk to you. Bring the sales manager out. He'll sell the car.
Exactly. And they do that. I haven't dealt with it.
Wheels, turn him up in my headsets. He's way too low. Run the gain. Go ahead, Doug. I'm sorry.
That's all right. I've done that and haven't dealt with the dealership in a long time. But last time I was dealing with the dealership, I walked in and talked to the guy about the car, and he sat down. He said, "This is what we want." And I said, "Well, this is what I feel it's worth. This is what I can give you." And, well, let me go talk to the manager. And I said, "Okay." When he got back from talking to the manager, I wasn't there.
Yeah, I will not stay and talk to anybody. That's exactly what's happened to me when I was shopping for another car for my wife and I hear this baloney about, well, I can't take that deal. I got to go check with the sales manager. I'm going to take a hike.
Yeah, and the deal with Scotty, he'd like to say he's doing it right, and I applaud him for it. I'll even stand beside him if if my boss had let me off Friday, I'd go march with him. But my boss told me I can't have any time off. So.
Well, I respect what they're doing, and I urge people to really let their voices and their actions be heard in the proper way. And that is, of course, Friday walking and marching to the Minidoka school office and let them know that this kind of juvenile or even adult bullying will not be tolerated.
Exactly. And call the newspapers, call the TV
Absolutely.
stations.
Absolutely.
Coverage. And on another note, with our federal government, if you got a second, the tape that was erased or had a glitch. I am so livid about this administration. Poor Nixon got hung out to dry.
Yeah.
For erasing a little bit off of a recording. This administration has lied and manipulated and just force-fed us the propaganda that they wanted to feed us.
Doug, I wish I had more time because I really wanted to get into that this morning, but, this 8 minutes of question and answer with Fox News Rosen and one of the White House people, I believe it was, I'm trying to think of the name right here right now, it's not really that important, but they lied. They took out that tape and they censored it. And then when Benjamin Rhodes of the White House administration responded, he said, oh, well, we never made any secret of our interest in pursuing a nuclear deal with Iran under the table. This kind of garbage, they're liars.
Exactly. And I urge everybody listening to call their representatives, even call the White House.
Yeah.
And the White House number, and just say enough is enough.
I'd like to really get into that story. I'll do it tomorrow, I think, about how we as the American public are absolutely being led by the nose thanks to liberalism and this administration. I had a guest on yesterday, Dr. Kim Holmes. I don't know if you heard that or not, but he was A1 spot on about the liberals have taken over this country and they're leading us to the path of absolute total destruction.
They are. And I agreed with him 100%. So
I got to run.
I'll talk to you more tomorrow.
All right, buddy. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Don't forget your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you. And if you're ready to go someplace this summer, hey, they got all the tires for your cars and your pickups and your SUVs. And along with that, they've got the tires for your camp trailers, horse trailers, boat trailers. I mean, they've got tires for every driving need. Stop in, many of which are on sale right now. And don't forget the best in brake service. The best in brake service. Front end alignment, shocks and struts, all the batteries you're going to need. I mean, hey, and easy, convenient credit terms. You better stop in and see Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family in Paul, Daniel on Poline in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland in Burley. Nobody better than your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. You stop in and see them today. We're going to, next hour, we've got my dear friend Dave Bigo coming on the program from Indianapolis, Indiana. And then at 9:30, we have a gentleman that's going to be discussing China, and how dangerous or not China is, economically and militarily. So we're going to be talking to him about that. And then at 10:06 this morning, don't forget that we are going to have 3 county sheriffs on the program that are running for re-election. Jerome County Sheriff Doug McFall, Minidoka County Sheriff Eric Snar, and Cassia County Sheriff Jay Heward. So that's coming up later on this morning. But right now, we're going to turn it over to Wheels for these good words and then CBS News. Oh, welcome back, Zebeth Ranch. It is a beautiful day out there. One of those days that I wished I could put all the equipment out on the sun deck and just enjoy. My goodness, Zebeth Ranch, I'm Zeb Bell with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you, along with some of our great advertisers like Western Waste Services.
From the canyons of the Snake River and all across southern Idaho, we're always the Georgia Soul. Western Waste Services, we care about our community, our resources, and distribution. Western Waste Services is lending a hand, always at Georgia Soul. Western Waste Services.
You know, locally owned and operated and picking up your trash. Nobody likes to have trash around. Get rid of it. Again, call the professionals, Western Waste Services. Always at your disposal. Easy to get on the route service. Absolutely easy. Call 734-6969. That number again, 734-6969. The best, Western Waste Services. By the way, don't forget, every morning we start the program off with our weather forecast, and we want to say thank you very much to Cheney Flooring and Home Design. Wonderful people with all your carpet, flooring, kitchen construction, and home decor items. Whatever you need to make your house a home. Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Look for the blue door. Absolutely. You know, we are right now in the middle of political season. We've got a lot of great people to talk about, and we're going to have some of those in a moment. But right now, I also want to remind you on Mondays at 9:16. Don't forget Vicky's Country Garden, 185 South, 600 West of Paul. And we have a program where she answers a lot of your questions. Send them to me about your gardens, your flowers, and about beautifying the exterior of your home. Boy, with all the shrubs, the trees, hanging baskets, everything. Vicky's Country Gardens, 185 South, 600 West of Paul, 438-5663. We're going to be going to the phone lines momentarily and have my dear friend Dave Bigo on from Indianapolis, Indiana. But prior to that, I also want to say thank you very, very much to Joel Heward, his staff, and his family for what they do to serve you and your family. Don't forget Hanson Mortuary at 710 6th Street in Rupert. The number to call, 436-5636. When there's the passing of a loved one, please know that they are there and ready and willing to help you with all the arrangements they know, with the highest ethical standards, with unquestioned integrity. Hanson Mortuary, 710 6th Street in Rupert, 436-5636. Right now, without further ado, we say a good morning to a dear, dear friend, and that is, of course, my dear buddy Dave Bigo. Good morning.
Good morning, Zeb. How you doing?
Running late as usual with all the things we have to get on this morning. First and foremost this morning, David, how's the golf course and how's the golf game? I mean, we got to talk about something a little relaxing once in a while.
Well, unfortunately, Zeb, we have had so much rain out here the past week that it's hard for anybody to get out and play golf. The course is just wet, and we're supposed to have a little bit of a dry day today, but it's overcast, so I don't know what's going to happen.
What is the general feeling back there in and around the Indianapolis area after the primary last week? What are you hearing from people that went and voted, and your thoughts about what's happening between Trump and Hillary?
Well, I think that, and of course you saw some of the returns last night with Trump winning Nebraska and West Virginia and Bernie winning West Virginia. I think, the polls are getting closer. We got a long way to go to the election, but I think that Hillary is going to have a really tough time in beating Trump because if they're the two contenders and she gets out there, I don't think she is going to be able to debate him and stop from mumbling, and I think he'll expose her for what she really is. And a lot of people, especially around here in Indiana, 72% of the people think she's a liar and not trustworthy.
Yeah. Dave, I want to ask you something about politics as far as what's happening in the United States right now with Hillary. And I think it was really indicative as to what happened in West Virginia yesterday. The people of West Virginia feel like they've had the rug pulled out from underneath them. They've lost their jobs, they've lost their homes, they've lost their communities with Hillary's comments. And I heard the original speech, and she did make a condemnation to get rid of coal and coal jobs. But people saw this, I think, as something much bigger than just coal. I think other people that I've talked to around the United States are seeing this as big government takeover and a complete distrust against Hillary Clinton. Do you think I'm wrong?
No, I think you're exactly right. I've spoken to this point and written this in my vlogs, is that, the Obama administration and the today's Democratic Party, far left progressives, want to change this from a capitalistic free market society to a socialistic / communistic society. And they're being backed by people like Soros and the union bosses, and that's what we're headed for. I mean, I don't know if you saw a couple speeches this week. One by Kerry, where he says, we're not going to have any borders. It's going to be a one world order.
Yeah.
And this is what they want, Zeb. They think that this whole world should be a totalitarian world that they control because they're smarter than everybody else. And then Obama, he spoke at Howard University, and he said to all business people, he says, you're just lucky that you've been successful, and you don't realize that. I mean, these people don't have a clue what it takes to really run a business and to make this country successful and bring back the free market capitalistic system. I mean, look at it. Kerry they wouldn't even hire, his wife's company wouldn't even hire him.
Well, let me ask you about that statement of Obama. I mean, both statements really offended me, but Obama has said this before, that you didn't build that business. You didn't do that. It was the luck of the draw, basically, that everything came your way. You know something, David? In my own case, nobody handed me a silver spoon. Nobody gave me anything that would put me on a path to success. I know it sounds egotistical, but I walked that path of success the hard way. I earned every doggone thing that I've got now in my life. And I know the same is true of you. How dare a president, supposedly a country and a world leader, say something so frivolously stupid?
Well, Zeb, because, that's the way he was brought up. And, he was brought up in the Alinsky style of living, communist, socialist, and, that was further, more training through the SEIU when he worked with them on the same type of things. And, he's just had these things ingrained in his head since he was, his dad was, I believe, a communist. And, he's had this stuff ingrained in him, and that's what he believes in. I mean, the man's never even run a Kool-Aid stand. How would he understand what it's all about to build a business.
You must be filled with animosity when you hear things like, you're just lucky, Dave Bego. Basically, Obama was also talking to you and me. I mean, what are your thoughts when you hear something about just lucky for all the blood, sweat, and tears you put into your business?
I just look at the man and I look at him and say, you're foolish. You have no idea what you're talking about. The only way that you can survive in this world is by getting up and saying these crazy, stupid things and being in politics, because you don't have the ability or the intelligence to survive in a free market society, and that's why you're doing what you're doing, because it's all about politics for you.
Absolutely. Dave, stay on the line, please. As I told you earlier, we're in primary season right now, and I've got a bunch of ads to take care of, and we'll be back with Dave Bego momentarily. Wheels over at the station, please, sir. Would you play the Roy Prescott message?
With over 40 years of dedicated community service, the Roy Prescott brings experience to real issues facing Jerome County today. Roy Prescott, the Jerome County Commissioner. Responsible leadership for a better Jerome County.
Paid for by the committee for Roy Prescott, Catherine Hanks, treasurer. Also want to remind you, too, that John Lenker is running for the position of Jerome County Sheriff, and he's got 18 total years of experience in law enforcement, 14 of those with the Jerome Police Department, and 7 of those as a school resource officer. He believes that taxpayer dollars should be spent in the county whenever possible and not send tax dollars out of state just because it may be a little cheaper. Don't forget to vote May 17th for John Lenker, Jerome County Sheriff, paid for by Lenker for Sheriff Committee, Chairman Bill Watts. We're on the air with a dear friend of mine, Dave Bego, back in Indianapolis, Indiana. Dave, in a somewhat related subject, the stats are out right now, and to me they are very scary and discomforting. Right now, this minute that we're talking, the United States of America has the lowest number of active duty soldiers since 1940, 76 years ago. And we've got more threats and more dangers now more than ever. What do you think about what Obama and this administration have done to our security?
I think it's done on purpose, Zeb. Again, I've talked about this many times on radio and my blogs, is that they want to fundamentally bring down this country, and they're doing it in every way they can. You think about it, they're doing it with our security, our armed forces, what we're doing internationally. They're doing it at home with our borders and, our economy. Look at our debt, 19+ trillion. They're trying to control our schools. They're trying to, with health care, with Obamacare. This is all about control, and it's so fundamentally obvious to me. And but most people around the world, they stand and they listen to these people talk. And and Bernie's a perfect example too. We're going to give you free stuff, free college. You're going to get free this and free that, and we're going to make sure you get a certain minimum wage, and we're going to do all this. And what these people don't understand is, at the end of the day, Bernie and Obama and Hillary and people that talk like this could care less about the people. This is all about them getting elected so they can carry out their agenda, which is to fundamentally bring down this country.
Does it surprise you, Dave, that here we are in the middle of May, and Bernie Sanders, avowed socialist/communist, is still winning 10 of the last 15 primaries against Hillary? Here's a guy that absolutely is not a member, really, of the Democratic Party. He's a socialist, and yet he's taking away a lot of the power from another very far-left person, Hillary Clinton. What does that tell you about what's going on in America today?
Well, it comes back to my last comment. It's about people listening to this stuff. And, Zeb, I've been through this stuff, and I know people get tired of hearing me saying this, but, I saw the same thing when the SEIU attacked me. I've seen it when we've dealt with other unions, and they go out and they promise people, they sugarcoat everything. And, oh, yeah, we're going to do this for you. You're going to make more. You don't have to work as hard. You're going to have more benefits, and you're going to get all this and everything. And at the end of the day, they could care less about the union members. It's all about their own pocketbooks and their political agenda to, change America fundamentally so that they grow the union membership back and they control the country with their political allies. And people just need to wake up to this. I mean, when you sit down and talk to these people, and this is what Trump has to do. I'm trying to get a chance to meet with him because he's going to have a hard time with this once the general election starts. But he has to understand that he's going to have to get out in front of these people. He's going to have a ground game to talk to these people and let them know that Hillary and Bernie and the union bosses and Soros have nothing in mind of the best interest of the people. These are all just brainwashing tactics they're using.
Dave, let me ask you this, and I'm not sure how to phrase this correctly. I think you'll understand what I'm trying to say, and correct me on the verbiage, but when you have people like John Kerry that are saying a borderless society, and you've got these mindless twits that are absolutely condemning us because we believe in borders and we believe in the respecting of borders, wouldn't a borderless society be absolutely chaotic in unions trying to attract and keep people within the fold? Aren't they kind of an oxymoron in supporting a borderless society?
Well, you would think so, Zeb, but here's the thing, and it's already happened to some extent, and I mentioned it in one of my blogs, but the unions are behind Obama on this because, behind the scenes, he's basically assured them that, we have the open borders, we bring these people in, and we'll make sure you get the information on these people so that you can go after them and their companies and force unionize these people. And, that's one of his goals. And before he gets there, he has to change the National Labor Relations Board more than he's done already. And I don't know if you saw this last week with the NLRB came out and said that they believe that they should have national control of all legal issues with companies around the country instead of being taken care of in their respective areas or regions. And this is just another step to take control and control business and control the labor and allow the labor unions to have access to the money and, to the political system.
What did you think when you heard the story about a censored video of the Obama administration regarding the Iran negotiations with the Fox News and also some of the members of Obama's administration in a cover-up? What did you think about that with James Rosen accusing the Department of State and being able to prove it that they removed a video that absolutely shows the administration tried to cover up? What were your thoughts when you heard that?
Well, it wouldn't surprise me. It's Zeb, I am so frustrated with politics and the media right now, and I've heard other people talk about this, even Fox, is that they are so intent on their revenues and their profits and that. And I know behind the scenes they're being attacked. I know that Fox and other people, their pressure's being put on them by the far left and the unions and stuff like that. And, that we're going to go after your advertisers and other people if you don't do what we want you to do. But at some point, people have to have backbone and stand up and say, no, we're not going to do this anymore. We're going to do the right thing for America.
Do you, back in the Midwest, and I used to live there, I was born and raised back in Wisconsin, do you see that backbone still there, or are people more concerned about the me, I, gimme attitude, and they really don't care what happens?
We still have it here, Zeb, but there's still concern that people aren't willing to stand up when they're really put under the pressure and the limelight and that, because they don't want to be in the press. They don't want to lose business. They don't want to spend money on fighting this stuff and that. And until you face it firsthand and face to face, it's really hard to understand, and I appreciate that. I know it's tough for people to do that, but we need people to look in the mirror and say, what made America great was starting this country as a free market system, a capitalistic system, and allowing people to go out, work hard, and persevere, build businesses, and build this country, provide more for the world and for people in the world than any country in the history of the world. And we got to stand up and stop this stuff.
Last question here this morning. As a businessman and entrepreneur for your business, what is the business climate here in America today? Is it kind of like disengaged into neutral right now? Is it ready to take off and run? Is it ready to put it in reverse and back up? What is the climate and the thinking about business in America?
The economy is not that good, and businesses are all over the country that I know and people I talk to. They're looking at ways to reduce costs. They're laying off people, and even though it doesn't show in the the labor statistics that the administration puts out, it's at a standstill right now, and I'm afraid that we could be moving towards another recession here pretty quickly. And you just see a lot of business people talking about that. Okay,
we're going to end on a happier note. I just wanted to point out to you that my Chicago Cubs are really running away from all the competition in Major League Baseball. This is one of the years where I'm allowed to gloat and just stick my chest out and say, "Go Cubbies!"
Well, Zeb, I'm just going to warn you that it's just kind of like the presidential race. It's early in the season, so we'll see what happens as we get closer to the elections and to the end of the season here in baseball. But I do have one other thing to ask you. I understand Brett Favre's wife, she's going to be the quarterback for the Packers this next year.
I think the Favre family, they can do anything they want to. And by the way, his lovely wife, and that picture says that, go ahead and give a little synopsis of what she had written. I've got about a minute left.
Yeah, well, she just said that she wanted to be the quarterback, and that she understands all the information, the definition of corner blitz, the nickel package, man-to-man. So she'd be a great quarterback for the Packers. And this particular article says, "Does this sound idiotic and unbelievable or familiar to you?" And then they say Hillary Clinton, who makes the same claims why she should be qualified to be president.
Amen.
And it goes on about that. My immediate thought was, as a pastry chef and the person who picks up dog poop from the White House lawn, because she has 8 years' experience with that. But when it comes to running the State Department, her biggest achievement was getting U.S. ambassador and 3 other Americans killed by the president. Terrorism had been defeated. Her words still echo, "What difference does it make?" And the last comment was, "At least Deanna Favre is a nice-looking gal," just like you said.
Amen. Dave, it's always a treat to visit with you, and I hope the rain stops so you can pick up that 9-iron and get out on the course. God bless you. Dave Bego in Indianapolis, Indiana. We'll see you next Wednesday. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, and hope you have good weather out there.
All right, sir. God bless. Thank you. Real friend of this program, Dave Bego. Thank you very, very much for being on the program. All right, let's see. Charlie Howell's running for Jerome County Commissioner, District 2. Charlie has served 4 terms as Jerome County Commissioner, and he spearheaded the new criminal justice facility that started 10 years ago. And he would like your vote on May 17th to continue. He believes and demonstrates in team play, but leads the way with independent thinking. Don't forget, vote for Charlie Howell, Jerome County Commissioner, District 2, paid for by Charlie Howell for County Commissioner Committee, Brenda Haddam, Treasurer. Oh, we've got a lot of great people that are running, and we also want to comment that we have a gentleman that's running for Minidoka County Sheriff. His name is Jeff McEwen. He says he will serve and protect the residents of Minidoka County by creating an agency that demands excellence. He says he wants to have the resources available to do the very best job that the citizens expect from their public servants. Don't forget, it's time, he says, to address what our county needs and not what a few think it needs. Don't forget, vote for Jeff McEwen, running for Minidoka County Sheriff on May 17th, paid for by Jeff McEwen for Minidoka County Sheriff Committee, Anna McEwen, Treasurer. In just a very few moments, we're going to have a guest on the program that is going to be talking about China and how dangerous it is or isn't to our economy and our security. So stand by. A gentleman by the name of Daniel Joseph is going to be on the program. Also want to remind you that Dee Yeaman is a candidate for Cassia County Commissioner, District 3. Dee has lived in Cassia County nearly all of his adult life, and he believes in protecting the values that make Cassia County a great place to live, and he believes in working hard to make improvements when necessary. Jaime. He says Cassia County government is all about us working for a common goal, and he would like to lead in those efforts. Don't forget, D. Yeaman running for Cassia County Commissioner District 3, paid for by Yeaman for Commissioner Committee, Sharon Hardy Mills, Treasurer. Oh, my. And I want to give another little shout-out to what Scotty was talking about last hour. There is going to be a rally in support of stopping school bullying, and it's going to be Friday on the square in Rupert. They're going to meet and march around the square to the Minidoka School office at 2 p.m. Bring your signs, and let's get this problem stopped and squashed. No more bullying. And we invite people to attend and be with Scotty and his family Friday afternoon at 2 p.m. on the Rupert Square. By the way, our friends over at Let's Ride, 270 Highway 24 between Rupert and the World say, come on in. They're all geared up for summer. Now's the time to buy a four-wheeler or a side-by-side and enjoy all the beautiful weather and what Idaho has to offer. My goodness, locally owned Let's Ride says 0% financing on Suzuki right now. Oh my goodness, and they've got all the watercraft over there too. You better check it out along with the accessories and a great service department, all of this and more at Let's Ride, 270 Highway 24 between Rupert and the World, where the fun is sold. And over in that area, just up the road a little ways, don't forget the professionals in the insurance business, and that's Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. Good people serving you with the best in life insurance, health insurance, retirement planning, and employee benefits. They are very accessible and devoted to your needs. All you have to do is call their office for an appointment, 436-4424. That number again, 436-4424. Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. You be sure and give them a call today. Real quick, one more ad regarding our politicals, and we want to remind you, too, that Scott Yates is running for Cassia County Sheriff. He's a candidate, and he's not part of the establishment. And he says, as a Cassia County Sheriff, Scott Yates will be serving and representing the residents of Cassia County. He believes that exceptional communities set higher goals, and Cassia County is an exceptional county. Scott Yates for Cassia County Sheriff, and paid for by the committee to elect Scott Yates, Committee Treasurer Julie Jaime. All right, let's go to the phone lines, and I'd like to say a good morning to this gentleman. I don't think he's ever been on our program before, but we say thank you to Mr. Daniel Joseph. Are you there, sir?
Yes, I am. Thanks for having me, Bill.
Well, it's a real treat to have you on the program because I think that sometimes I don't give enough recognition to what's going on with China and some of the problems, etc. And I think you're very well versed, according to the piece that I had read that you had written called "Could China Push the United States into a Recession?" Basically, Daniel, what are your thoughts about China as being our biggest threat to the United States?
Well, that's a broad topic. They are certainly on the security side. There are those, including some in our military, who have pointed out that from a long-term perspective, China is a bigger threat than ISIS or anything that's going on in the Middle East because China has sustained development. And certainly China is building its military. But I would argue that while we need to take necessary countermeasures with our alliances and our own forces, the good news on that front is China is growing because it's integrating with the global economy. And as many people have said before, normally you don't declare war on your customers and your partners. So that's what I think over time is going to strengthen our relationship with China. I like to point out to people there was a time not too long ago, historically speaking, when Germany and Japan were our arch enemies, and that's no longer the case. That's the path China's on. That doesn't mean there aren't risks in the short term, and it certainly doesn't mean we shouldn't have defensive measures to counter some of the things they're doing. But long term, as long as their economy continues on this path toward more of a free market focus, they'll become easier to deal with. Now, on the economic side, we have obviously a very integrated relationship with them, very codependent. I think looking at some of the political rhetoric out there, I think our relationship with China is a little bit fairer than some people are characterizing it, but that doesn't mean it can't be improved in certain areas, definitely.
All right, now I'm going to say this, Daniel, and feel free to criticize me because that's what a talk show is all about. I am not a globalist, and the reason I say I'm not a globalist is because I feel that today we, the United States of America, has been put on the back burner as far as priority is concerned. I look at the various trade agreements, whether it's TPP or whether it's NAFTA or whatever, and I always see us trying to milk a dry cow, if you will, and it seems like it furthers others and progresses others' economies more so than ours. How would you respond to that?
Well, it's funny. I was reading something the other day, in fact, commenting on how, a book on trade, actually, commenting on how the people of Mexico think that America benefited from NAFTA, and they didn't, and we think likewise. The whole free trade argument is a long one. There's been a lot of research. My position is that to as again some of the candidates have said, to equate trade deficits with job losses just isn't correct. The fact is, countries that run trade surpluses, like Japan and Germany, have had the same kind of manufacturing job loss that we have, because it's more related to automation and the evolution of an economy from an industrial stage to the information age. That's what really drives. I mean, a lot of the jobs that go to places like China, frankly, some of those jobs are already leaving China, but they're not coming back here. They're going to Vietnam and they're going to India. And I just think, now, again, I'm not trying to say that everything we do with China is fair. We could do some things, have them change some of their policies. But overall, our trade relationship with them is because they have low-cost labor, which, by the way, is rising their wage rates. And we buy things from them more cheaply, and we save money, but then we can invest in different parts of our economy. And I think to correct the jobs issue that we have here, we need to focus on our own competitiveness issues, from education to healthcare costs and that sort of thing. So I think for example, if Donald Trump is elected and he ends up pushing a hard trade agenda with China and really does slap a 45% tariff on them, I think people are going to be very disappointed, because I don't think that's going to end up driving manufacturing jobs back to the United States.
I will say this, that I am one of these people that absolutely is very highly critical of the United States letting China take over our clothing industry, as a matter of fact. That's one example. And I'm a big guy. I'm about 6 foot, and I weigh 220 pounds, and I wear a size 19-inch neck shirt, 36-inch sleeve length. And for me to go to a store and find a shirt that fits me is almost absolutely ridiculous, because most all products made now overseas, and these little people, smaller in stature than us, quite frankly, I don't think they really know how to use a tape measure, because all of the products coming from overseas are undersized and not as good a quality.
Well, that might be exactly the case, and I hope that some entrepreneurs listening, because maybe there's a market for some of the more specific or niche-oriented types of clothing out there. But again, I just think I understand your point of view, but I guess looking at it in a broader sense, I mean, I'm sure that 75 years ago, 100 years ago, people were lamenting the loss of jobs on the farm, agricultural jobs. But the fact is, when you transition from an agricultural to a manufacturing or industrial economy, that's what's going to happen, and we still eat enough. We made all the food we need with only 1 or 2% of the population working in farms. I just think that's kind of what's happening now, and clothing is an example of, frankly, we do. I mean, there are plenty of companies around the world in developed countries that manufacture equipment that's used to make clothing, so we have automated it to a certain degree, but the parts that aren't automated, it's just not the most high-level skilled type of job. And if we're going to continue to increase our standard of living in this country, we need to move towards, more skill-oriented jobs. So to me, there's no way to prevent that type of job from going overseas. And let's keep in mind, as a business person who's managed factories and supply chains connected to China and around the world, it's no picnic doing that. The only way you do that is because you save money that you then pass on to your customers, which means people spend less on their T-shirts and more on their iPhones. That's kind of how it works.
Well, Daniel, let me throw agriculture into the fray here this morning in our discussion. I absolutely am adamant that when my wife goes shopping at the store, absolutely no products, no food products from overseas are ever brought into my home. We buy American only. But right now, there is, over the years, a concentrated effort to have more food imports into this country at the diminishment of our United States farmers and ranchers. And that's something that I will not stand for, because nobody raises the best in quality and the most productive crops that American farmers and ranchers do.
Well, I mean, agriculture can be kind of tricky from a trade point of view. First of all, the barriers in agriculture all around the world. I mean, the United States has a fair number of barriers on the agricultural side that I don't think are terribly beneficial, including sugar, which has cost us sugar-related manufacturing jobs in this country. And I just read that pistachios, there's a 300% tariff on pistachios, which explains why I have to pay so much for pistachios at the grocery store. Having said that, the Europeans and the Japanese are even worse than we are. I think that, and before I delve into that further, let me just say, your point about quality, I agree with that. I mean, we do need to maintain quality standards, and certainly when we're importing from overseas, and particularly developing countries like China, quality is a huge issue, and I do think we need to be policing that. But on the other hand, I think we overall do a pretty good job of that, and I do think from that point of view, there should be a brand name preference for domestically grown or raised products. So from that point of view, hopefully the market would kind of take care of that. But when it comes to agriculture, it's almost more of an export issue than an import issue. What we're trying to do all around the world, from Japan and Europe to China, is open up those markets, most of which are more closed than ours, so that we can export more. So from an agricultural point of view, it's more about export than importing.
Well, you realize, of course, though, Daniel, that most all countries that are exporting to us have a subsidy program for all their agricultural products that make it really tough on American farmers and ranchers to compete on a level scale. So that's a point that has to be brought out also.
You're absolutely right. And, I mean, trade agreements are going after that. I mean, the Japanese are heavy into that in both beef and rice and other products. The Europeans on dairy. I mean, I've always found it kind of ironic, since agriculture is the older industry, that we make more progress in terms of free trade and lowering tariffs on industrial products than we do on agriculture. But people, agricultural sectors as a percentage of a total workforce tend to be small, but they get a lot of attention. So you're right. I mean, it's not just the trade issues related to related to agriculture. Yes, they are tariffs, quotas, and also subsidies. And we do that too, by the way. Everybody is guilty of that. It's just that the United States is a little bit more free trade oriented on the agricultural side than anybody else. I think the answer is to open up their markets, to draw down their subsidies. And by the way, that's what some of these trade agreements like the TPP are doing in places like Japan.
Yeah, I want to talk more about the TPP with you in just a moment. We have a caller waiting on the line with a question. Go ahead, caller, quickly. You're on the air.
Oh, yeah, he's talking about quality and products. China's just getting worse and worse every year instead of better, like Japan did. Because I have a grinder that was made in China. I bought in 1994. It's still working. You can't buy anything like that from China that'll last that long anymore.
Okay, and that's your comment? Go ahead and respond if you would, please, Daniel. Go ahead.
I think I would just take issue with that. I would disagree. I think the Chinese are definitely across the board coming up the curve in terms of quality. I've done a lot of manufacturing-related work in China. And particularly, I mean, in terms of manufacturing techniques, management practices, and certainly in terms of the equipment they use, overall, China is getting better. It takes time, it takes decades, and I think the caller may have had a particular bad experience. But overall, I think the Chinese are they're doing what all these developing economies do. They start off bad, but then they get better.
I've got another caller with a question, and I'll get back to my original thought in just a moment. Caller, quickly, I'm running short on time. Go ahead.
Yeah, a good example, Zeb, of shipping this stuff to China is Wald, the people who make, coveralls and insulated coveralls and shirts and jeans and stuff like that, have always been of the highest quality. They are located in Cleburne, Texas, but they have sold out to China. And now all they have is a small retail operation. A huge factory sitting idle.
I agree with you. Go ahead and respond, Daniel, please, to the caller, and then I've got a question for you myself.
Yeah, again, and that is difficult, the adjustment process for laid-off workers in a situation like that can be challenging, although there are studies that say workers who are laid off for trade-related reasons find new jobs as quickly as those laid off for any reason. But at the end of the day, you know, manufacturing as a percentage of GDP has actually maintained its level over the last 20, 30 years. It's just that because we're more efficient, the number of people working in that sector has decreased. And at what we would call the lower end, like clothing, it's hard to protect those jobs when they can go to lower-cost countries. And I will point out to you, China, because wages have been increasing at double-digit rates for the last 6 to 8 years in China, China's losing clothing jobs to places like India and Vietnam. China has actually lost market share in the clothing industry over the last 5 years, and there's tens of thousands of workers being laid off in China because factories are being closed. So it's not unique to us. At some point, labor gets high enough and those type of jobs move on, but it keeps prices low for everybody.
Daniel, in regards to the Trans-Pacific Trade Agreement, I have read the general summation of it. I don't like it the way it's worded today, and if I were in control, I would vote against it because of a couple of things that are in there that are a little bit more than insidious to me, one of which gives a lot of control over us, the United States, by the United Nations, and it could also cause a lot of forced immigration into this country that we can't afford. Your thoughts on that?
Well, I think from a trade point of view, the TPP is good for the United States. There's only one low-cost country in it, Vietnam. The rest are developed countries whose markets are, frankly, more closed than ours. So we're opening other markets, like Japan is a great example. So from a trade point of view, I think it's very positive. Now, what you're pointing out is a particular legal issue within there that, yeah, I think it's new to people, and it does raise alarm, even to a free trade person such as myself. Basically, there's a provision in there that says if a country that is a member of the agreement passes a law or some regulation that restricts trade for the outside members in a way that contravenes the actual agreement, then that can be adjudicated or must be adjudicated in an independent panel outside of the country. And at the end of the day, if the independent panel finds that, yes, this is a violation, what you're basically saying is the country then has to change its laws according to what this panel says. And the interesting thing is the reason this type of clause came into being is because the developed countries, such as ourselves and Europe and Canada, we felt when entering into these agreements, we could not trust the legal system in the developing countries where the rule of law is not well established. If a foreign country sues, the United States, they can actually get a fair shake in a U.S. court. That's not really true in some countries overseas. So this provision was thought of in other trade agreements with the idea that, hey, let's bring some fairness to dispute resolution. Well, the problem is those countries then turn around and use it on us. And that's been happening increasingly, which has people like yourself and others concerned about the implications for sovereignty. I do think that is a provision that needs some work. And as I said, I'm free trade. I like the trade provisions, but that particular legal provision is a tough one. And if we're not careful, we could put ourselves in a bad position where we're finding that, we're having to make very politically unpopular decisions because of an arbitration overseas, and I'm just not sure that's going to fly here.
So in other words, in simple terminology, you and I basically are on the same page as far as what I brought up about the United Nations. But I also want to end the conversation with this statement and see how you'll respond. The problem we have in this country right now is that we did, through our government, borrow and are continuing to borrow a lot of money from China. So basically, we owe our soul to the company store, like an old Tennessee Ernie Ford song, and they are looming over us, and it could cause a lot of future problems with trade agreements and also monetary gain and loss. That is something I'm very concerned about, China having the power over us. Go ahead and tell me your comment.
Yeah, I would say that is overstated. In terms of our overall economic relationship with China, they need us as much as we need them. China and Japan trade places in terms of being the number one holder of United States, Treasury debt overseas. But even at that, China's share is not more than 10%. It's not huge. And since the 2008 financial crisis, they haven't, that's when we first started really talking about this, they haven't dumped any of those bonds or anything like that. The fact of the matter is, again, because we are their customer. So it really does not behoove China. They don't trade completely fairly, that's true. But it doesn't behoove them to kind of try to tank our economy in some sort of malicious way. Besides that, where else would they put the money? So overall, they need us as much as we need them, which is something we need to remember when we're negotiating with them. But I don't think the debt position puts us in a position of vulnerability, as you described. Now, overall, we should be doing a better job of managing our balance sheet. We should be bringing that debt down, period, no matter who we're borrowing from. But China does not, in my opinion, gain much leverage. They kind of put themselves in a position where they have nowhere else to put their money anyway.
Daniel, I'm going to invite you back on the program in the very near future. I've enjoyed the conversation. Thank you very much. Daniel Joseph on the air and talking about China and our monetary loss and gain with them, also on imports and exports. Thank you, sir, for coming on the program.
Thanks for having me. I really enjoyed it.
All right. Thank you very much. Interesting guest. And Daniel Joseph, I'll get him back in the future. I'm not saying I agree with everything as far as his concepts are concerned, but we had a good debate. Thank you very much. Oh, my goodness, time for the weather. And the weather is brought to you this hour by Lennox Home Comfort Systems. Yes, sir, through Ramsey Heating and Electric, offering rebates on qualified Lennox Home Comfort Systems. Whether it's a gas furnace, an air conditioner, or a heat pump, you and your family will enjoy the comfort. Here now is Gina with the weather.
It's the middle of the week, and we are on the downhill slide for the weekend, and we've got to be thankful for that. Sunny skies for today, high of 66. Tonight, low of 38 tomorrow. It's going to be even nicer, sunny and 77. Mostly sunny and 83 for Friday, partly cloudy and 83 for Saturday. And as we get into Sunday, more clouds are going to be rolling in, and we do have a slight chance of some afternoon rain showers on Sunday. That's your weather for 7th Rain.
Oh, great job, Gina. Thank you very much. Brought to you by Ramsey Heating and Electric and Lennox on qualified Lennox Home Comfort Systems. Call 678-0459 and learn how Ramsey Heating and Electric can save you money on Lennox. Oh, my, I got time for a phone call or two. Give me a jingle on the landline, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Give me a jingle. I would like to hear from you. This gives me just a moment here to where I'd like to elaborate again on what Scotty Cameron was talking about in the first hour. The bullying in schools, whether it's here, whether it's in New York City or Dallas, Texas, it doesn't make any difference. It's got to stop. There has got to be, Deanne, if you'd close that door for a moment, please. There's got to be more restrictions and overview as to what's going on and how to stop this problem. And I really admire Scotty for making sure that there's going to be a march Friday, this week Friday, at the Rupert Square, starting at 2 p.m., and they're going to be marching from the square going to the Minidoka School office, and he's urging others to be in attendance. Deanne, close that door for a minute, please. Thank you. And we've got some guests coming into the house, and we're going to close the door to the studio so we don't get a bunch of background noise. Your calls are welcome. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Give me a call and let me know what your thoughts are, and I urge you to support Scotty Cameron on that walk on Friday. Don't forget, Maxine Bell is running for re-election for Representative District 25A, and she's served our community since 1988. Chairman of the Appropriations Committee, co-leader of the Joint Finance Appropriations, and on the Agricultural Affair and Joint Legislative Oversight Committees. She said our nation, and especially Idaho, needs people to exercise their voting privileges, and she urges you to go vote on May 17th. Maxine Bell, running for re-election for District 25A, Linda Burton, Treasurer. Thank you very very much. And another gentleman that is running for re-election, and he's been on our program many, many times in the past, and that's, of course, Representative Clark Kaufman. Now, he urges you to vote on May 17th in the primary election. He is working to keep Idaho a business-friendly state with tax policies that are fair and equitable for businesses and individuals. And he says, thank you very much for the opportunity to serve you as District 25 representative. And this ad paid for by the committee to elect Clark Kaufman, Debbie Kaufman, treasurer. Oh, my goodness sakes. Next hour, and your calls will be welcome and appreciated, we are going to have 3 county sheriffs, and we're going to be talking about all kinds of things that are going on within their respective counties and see how much the different counties of Jerome, Minidoka, and Cassia County are actually intertwined. Maybe they have some of the same problems. Maybe they have some of the same concerns. We're going to be having Jerome County Sheriff Doug McFall on the air with us, along with Minidoka County Sheriff Eric Snar, and also Cassia County Sheriff Jay Heward. They're all going to be here in the same studio this next hour. I got 3 Matt Dillons coming in here all at the same time, so it should be very, very interesting. While I have just a time, I want to remind you to go vote. I've said this many, many times on this program, and I do urge you to go vote on May 17th. So does Senator Kelly Anthon, Representative Fred Wood, and the Speaker of the House, Scott Bedke. Don't forget, it is your patriotic responsibility and duty. May 17th, go vote. The polls open at 8 a.m. and take your picture ID with you. Be proud of who you are when you go to the polls. This ad paid for by Senator Kelly Anthon, Representative Fred Wood, and House Speaker Scott Bedke. Don't forget, May 17th. Wow, we've got a lot of things cooking this morning, and like I said, this next hour, your calls are welcome and appreciated to our 3 sheriffs. Jerome, Minidoka, and Cassia County sheriffs will be here. Right now, we're going to send it over to Wheels for this good word, and he'll take us up to CBS News. Oh, here we go, hour number 3 on Wednesday, May the 11th. Zeb at the Ranch. I'm Zeb Bell with our major sponsor, and we thank them for all their help. And that's, of course, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you. Stop in today, along with some of our great advertisers like Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. Call and get on the route service today at 734-6969. Wheels, if you would, please. The Roy Prescott ad, if you would.
B. Roy Prescott brings integrity, honesty, hard work, accountability as a community servant and leader. Roy Prescott, the Jerome County Commissioner. Responsible leadership for a better Jerome County.
Paid for by the committee to elect Roy Prescott, Jerome County Commissioner, Catherine Hanks, Treasurer.
Strong, Justice for Idaho.
Clive Strong is a third-generation Idahoan with a proven record of protecting Idaho's sovereignty. He is respected and ethical and will interpret Idaho's Constitution and laws as written. Strong worked to increase endowment funding for public education. Clive Strong has the bipartisan endorsement of Governor Dirk Kempthorne and Governor Cecil Andrus. Clive Strong is the right justice for Idaho's Supreme Court.
Paid Strong for Justice campaign, William Van Hole, Treasurer.
We're on the air this morning, and this is kind of a unique situation. I would pity any and all bad guys that want to try to come by the studio because I have not 1, not 2, but 3 Matt Dillon types that can handle the job and handle it well. We have with us the Jerome County Sheriff, Doug McFall. I've known Doug for a long time when he was an Idaho State Trooper. And then, of course, Minidoka County Sheriff Eric Snar doing a great job, and Cassia County Sheriff Jay Heward. And gentlemen, good morning. Take the microphones, and we'll start first of all with Doug McFall. Doug, thanks for coming by the station this morning.
Good morning. Thanks, Zeb.
You're running for re-election. And I wouldn't want your job as a county sheriff, but you must love law enforcement. You've been in it for a long, long time.
I have. I learned at a real young age that I usually didn't like going to work to the jobs, and when I got into law enforcement, it was a job I looked forward to every morning. And it's ironic, but still to this day, I look forward to going to work, and I enjoy it, and that's why I'm headed for another round.
All right. Also, I'm going to go right down the line. Cassia County Sheriff Jay Huard. Jay, we've known each other for a long time, and you're also running for re-election. Why?
We have, Zeb, and like Doug, I enjoy it. I enjoy getting up every day and going to work, and I've just got some unfinished things going on at the sheriff's office that I just want to see through. We have people retire. I've got new people. I want to mentor them, and I'm just not ready to throw in the towel.
I appreciate that. And last but not least, Minidoka County Sheriff Eric Snar, and I've had a lot of long visits with him right here in this office. How are you, sir?
Very good. Thank you, Seb.
I need you to hold those microphones real close, gentlemen. You're also running for re-election and putting yourself through the grinder again. Why? Why do you like this job so much?
They say when you find a job that you truly love, time flies by. Before the end of the day, it's time to go home already. I always ask myself if I completed everything that I needed to get done today so I can come back again tomorrow and finish what I've continued.
I like that. All right. Now, I've got a lot of questions for you gentlemen here this morning, and we do invite phone calls of the interested public to give you a call. Are there any big differences, Doug, I'll start with you. Are there any big differences to each county and your job as sheriff, or are they all basically pretty much together as far as what your problems are they also have in Cassia and Minidoka County?
Well, you know, every county is unique, and our three counties are fairly kind of in the same category as far as population size. We're not real big, but we're not a little tiny either. But overall, we face the same problems. We talk, and we deal with the same issues all the time. I'm fortunate to have sheriffs like Sheriff Huard and Sheriff Snar bordering Jerome County, because anytime any of us here have issues that we need help with, one phone call and it's done. I mean, literally, I asked Eric Snar, Sheriff Snar, for some assistance on an investigation a while back, and within a day, his people were right on it. And it goes both ways. When they call over, if there's anything I can do, I've needed their assistance. Like, I don't have a dive rescue team, and numerous times this last year I've needed divers, and within a couple hours I've got the dive team in Jerome County help me out, and I truly appreciate that.
So, Jay, I'm assuming from having all three of you here in the studio, there's a lot of teamwork between the county sheriffs.
A lot of teamwork. As Doug said, they had our dive team over there, and we don't mind helping out. And Eric and I go both ways. We share the same piece of river, same water together, and so, yeah. It's a pretty shallow river.
All right, Eric, and your thoughts about working together, and do you have basically the same needs and same wants as the other counties?
Absolutely. It's all about teamwork. We're here as a team to help each other out. There's things that go on in the other counties that we help each other out with. We respond to help out the Sheriff McFall and Sheriff Huard. I am cross-deputized in both of their counties, and a lot of my deputies are as
What does
well.
that mean, cross-deputized? What does that mean?
The sheriff of that county swears them in as one of their deputies.
I see.
So they can have jurisdiction there.
I see. Is that something that is customary in most areas?
Can't speak about the other areas, but with Minidoka County, we are cross-deputized into Lincoln and Jerome and Cassia.
I would think that's really a good thing for the general public.
Absolutely. There's a lot of things that happen on the east end of Jerome County that we can respond to help out Jerome, where their office is so far down the freeway. We can have a deputy there in just a few minutes and to help them. The same for Cassia County.
Let's go back down the line, starting and staying with you, Eric, just a moment. Does your county, in your opinion, Minidoka County, it's a rural county, basically. Yes. Do you have enough manpower to get the job done correctly for the public?
Yes. We just put on our 19th officer, and that includes me.
And you think that's enough to handle the job?
For right now, yes. We are up to full staff.
And does it take a lot of coordination to make sure that you've got the manpower spread out throughout the county to give representation to people when they need help?
Absolutely. As well as in my county, there are 2 city police departments, the Heyburn Police and the Rupert Police. They have officers on, and we can rely on their assistance and when we request them. And so as they request us, we go in and help them as well.
Okay. Jay, what about Cassia County? Do you feel that you've got it's a big county. Cassia's a big county, and it's pretty spread out. And again, another rural county. Do you have the manpower to get the job done?
We get by with what we have. I would really like to have 4 more people. That would be 1 in the city, 1 in the county, another person in the jail, then be able to put 1 back over in the court.
I see.
So,
is it hard to find qualified people?
It can be, and it's hard to find qualified people that want to stay when other varying counties around the area offer to pay more.
I see. So what do you do to combat that? What's the enticement for them to try to become an officer?
Well, guys come to Cassia County for the beauty, fish, hunt, lots of things to do, and there are other areas that are not as unique as we are. We have a great marine program. We have a snowmobile program. We have AT patrol in the summertime. So we just have a lot of things that we're doing and a lot of fun stuff for deputies to be
Okay. What about you over in Jerome County, Doug? I mean, have you got enough manpower? And how does your county compare land size-wise with Cassia and Minidoka as far as what your needs are?
Minidoka and Jerome are pretty close square mile-wise. Our population in Jerome is within 1,000, I think, of Cassia County, but Cassia County's got a lot more square miles. The big deal as far as you were asking about hiring, and that's been our problem too, is we haven't been able to pay as much as the state police or Twin Falls County or Twin Falls City. So you have to offer something above and beyond, and you try to do that by making a positive work environment. Fortunately, I've got an excess of applicants for the new jail getting ready to open up here, and we just did our oral boards yesterday, and I was pleasantly surprised by the quality of applicants that we ended up with. But it hasn't always been that way. I very seldom hire outside the agency for patrol because a lot of these deputies get into the jail and they want to work their way out on patrol, and we give those deputies first shot at it. They do us a good job in the jail, and we try to help them with their career path. But it can be a struggle, especially with the publicity and media that law enforcement's been getting. Fortunately, that's starting to turn around in the last few months.
Let me ask you about all 3 of you that question, and Doug, I really appreciate you bringing that up. Let's be very blunt that I think that police officers are absolutely under the microscope today, more so than ever before, by a lot of groups that are hate groups against police in general, whether it's the inner city police forces or even county sheriffs. How are you going to combat that?
Well, first off, we're lucky that we live in Idaho because the citizens of Idaho are not like citizens in back east or in California, and even, you saw what was happening with the Seattle police here just
Absolutely.
a week or 2 ago.
Yep.
And I saw some clips of those activities, and I just thought, wow, those guys are true professionals. They really handled that well, and they were getting belittled, by the people out there, and they remained professional, kept injuries to a minimum, and I think that's what you got to do. We have to be professional, we have to be transparent and open to everyone, and unfortunately we got to rely on documentation these days, and that usually depends on video and audio recordings of what take place, because the days where a person's word was golden is not like that anymore. You have to prove yourself, and fortunately, most complaints, and I'm sure the other sheriffs will agree, that we get end up being unfounded because we pull the video and review it, and we go, no, it didn't happen the way that the complainant says it did.
The word that you use, professionalism, Jay, I would assume that today, following up on what Doug just said, it's got to be harder to train and keep up with everything that you must do because it's an ever-changing job, isn't it?
It is an ever-changing job. we require professionalism in our agency. Like Doug said, we use dash cams and we use body cams. Just like Sheriff McFall said, we have people come in and say, hey, come in, see the video. And a lot of times, that will put into it right there, because most things are recorded. And we tell our people, always know that you are being recorded. With cell phones out there now, always figure that you're being recorded, and you have to take a step above, and you've got to be just as professional as you can.
Eric, does it offend you as a officer of the law that the scrutiny is turned away from the perpetrators of the crime, and basically the general public's looking at law enforcement trying to pin something on them? Doesn't that kind of irritate you a little bit?
Yes, it does, and it depends on the situation at hand. If it's something that's really serious, it boils down to the officer's integrity, their professionalism. I expect my deputies to treat the public as they were treating them, as if they're investigating a crime for their own family. I believe law enforcement should be colorblind when it comes to their investigations. We should show no bias.
Absolutely.
We're there to do a job and to do it right. Do officers make mistakes? Absolutely. But we learn from our mistakes and we move on.
All right, we're going to have more with our gentleman here in just a moment. Don't forget, Kelly Anthon is running for re-election for Idaho State Senator, and he wants your vote on May 17th. Kelly, of course, believes in the right to speak freely bear arms, and, of course, practice religion and must be defended. Kelly has a unique ability to represent the entire Mini-Cassia area. He has served as both Burley City Attorney and the Rupert City Attorney. Don't forget, on May 17th, vote to re-elect Kelly Anthon, State Senator, paid for by the committee with Elaine Stevenson, treasurer. We're on the air with three great county sheriffs that have done a great job: Jerome County, Minidoka County, and Cassia County. And I want to ask this question. Again, we'll start with Eric and move on down the line here. I'm not trying to be naive because I'm from the Midwest originally, back in Wisconsin, but as the Mississippi being a dividing line, let's say, is there a difference in being a Western county sheriff versus someone east of the Mississippi? Are there big differences?
I believe so, yes. I know that one of the things that we rely on out here, and part of it to help our budgets out, is the PILT money, payment in lieu of taxes.
Right.
I don't know how much longer that'll continue, but on the eastern part of the United States, they don't do that. I know there's been a lot of people that's been elected into Congress that could change at any given, any time. That could stop. That will help us out here continue on with our budgets and the payment in lieu of taxes.
Jay, do you notice any big differences when you talk to your comrades back in the Midwest versus out here in the West as to, do you think you've got an easier job? Do they have a tougher job, or vice versa? What are the differences?
I think being a sheriff is tough, or a police officer is tough. I don't know that it really matters where you are. Some of the jokes I have with maybe some of the Midwest Eastern sheriffs are, we will shoot at an elk further than their whole state is wide, So they say, you have big areas like that? And I said, yeah, you need to come out west and take a look.
Absolutely. How would you respond to that, Doug? What are your thoughts?
Well, I think absolutely that law enforcement techniques are different from the east and west. But, one ironic thing is I've traveled around the country and needed some assistance or been on an inmate transport. And one thing I found out, law enforcement's a brotherhood. It's kind of like with firefighters. If you're a firefighter, you can go into any fire department across the country, and the brother firefighters are going to help you out. I've got stories that are too long to tell, but I've been outside the state and needed some assistance. And one phone call, it doesn't matter if it's police or county sheriff or whatever. If I need some assistance, they're ready to jump in and help. So it is a brotherhood across the whole country.
Okay, now I'm going to ask this question of all three of you, and I think that it's a problem that I don't see going away. And I know that all three of you have done a great job trying to fight drugs. Are you winning or losing? Doug?
You know what? We're probably standing our ground. I think I see the gang issues kind of waver in and out, but they're definitely in the Magic Valley. The drive-by shootings that we're having daily. I think some of the shootings here recently are as a result of drugs and gang activity. Drugs and gangs go hand in hand. That's how the gangs finance their activities. Of course, you heard about the farmer that was chasing some fellows off his property here a few weeks ago, and they shot at him 3 times. And quite frankly, I'm very concerned. I'm more concerned than I was before. Drug problems have been there forever. They always will be here, but I think we need to not let our guard down. And I applaud Sheriff Snarr. He's taken the lead in that, and I know that Sheriff Heward is on board with him on that. And I would like to actually, if I couldn't do it on my own, I'd like to partner with the Jerome City Police Department and get another person hired and just let them work full-time on that drug enforcement activities.
Jay, how would you respond to that? Drugs number one problem in your county?
They are one of the problems. It seems like drugs and drug crimes go hand in hand with property crimes, and it seems like it's all driven by the dollar and the need to, purchase. So, yes, I agree with it. It is.
Okay. Eric, would you respond? I know that you've been heavily involved in anti-drug methods and means. What are your thoughts over in Minidoka County?
One of our concerns is the drug problems and other related crimes that go along with it. I'm not saying all the related crimes, such as the thefts, the white-collar crimes you get into, the checks, the credit cards, those are turning into a very big drug problem, as well as domestic violence. Usually it leads right back to the illegal drugs, controlled substances that goes on with the task force that currently at hand. I know that we are starting to win. We're making a huge difference over in the Mini-Cassia area. In fact, the task force has been helping out other task forces in the surrounding counties and helping them out with the information that we've been giving them, which leads into other states.
Okay. We have a caller on the air with a question. Go ahead, caller, quickly with your question for the sheriffs.
Oh, yeah, this is for all three. How would you have handled the situation in Oregon? Would you have sent the BLM and FBI out of your county?
It's a good, fair question about, it's speculation, of course, but I'll start with Eric. What would you have done had that circumstance occurred in Minidoka County?
The federal government would have needed to stop by my office and show me what reason they have to be there in Minidoka County. If they had a warrant, obviously I can and will review that warrant. If I need to check with my own legal department, my prosecutor, but they should have stopped at the county sheriff's office. If I was the sheriff up there in Oregon, I wasn't there. I only know the facts, what the newspapers have reported, but I would have handled it completely different than what that sheriff did up there.
What would have been the completely different? More control on a local basis with you, that county sheriff?
Absolutely.
Okay, Jay, I'd like you to respond to that, all three of you, actually. Do county sheriffs really understand their constitutional rights?
I do.
Talk right into that, Mike.
I think that my idea is I'm not going to let them get a stronghold in my county to begin with. I want to, if they're going to come into my county, they need to be meeting with me first, and I don't care why.
Yeah,
I don't care why they're there, whether it be mail fraud or something else. I want to know about it, and I've been told by other sheriffs that things could have been avoided had the feds not been allowed to get set up in the first place. And that's kind of where I'm looking at.
I appreciate those answers. And Doug, I will say this. I know a lot of sheriffs in various counties all over the United States because of my rodeo business, many of which are cowed, if you will, by federal power or the thumb atmosphere. We're going to be in control. How would you respond to that if the situation had been in Jerome County?
Well, first off, I feel like the sheriff is, the top law enforcement official in the county, and the reason is because a sheriff's put in that place by the people. He's not appointed by a commission. I agree with a lot of what the sheriff over in Oregon did. I don't agree with everything that he did, but I will tell you that I believe the people have the right to protest. I don't think two wrongs make a right, and I think that they went overboard, setting up, taking over the Federal Center. I don't think that was an appropriate means of protest. Fortunately, I don't believe that law enforcement at all initially overreacted like some of the other like we've learned from our situations in the past. And I'm talking about like Ruby Ridge and Waco, for those of you that remember those incidents. And they did take a wait-and-see stance and do a lot of talking and so forth. I don't think all of us know exactly everything that took place, at the end of that, but I certainly think the sheriff has an obligation to maintain control of that situation and work with parties involved. And I, again, feel the people have the right to protest and voice their concern, whether it parallels mine or not, and I'm going to support those folks with those protests. I don't agree with everything that our federal government's doing these days, and so I'm on board.
All right, three great gentlemen here in my studio, and I'm very honored to have Jerome County Sheriff Doug McFall, Minidoka County Sheriff Eric Snar, and Cassia County Sheriff Jay Heward on the air. We're going to have this good word and then a quick break at our studio, and we'll come back for another half hour with these gentlemen, and your calls are welcome. Don't forget, Roger Morley is running for re-election for District 3, Jerome County Commissioner. Roger has served as County Commissioner in Jerome for 2 terms, and he's also 2 terms as an Idaho Senate lobbyist and also a Jerome County Planning and Zoning Commissioner. He has the experience needed to make a great county commissioner. Don't forget to vote May 17th for Roger Morley for re-election for District 3, Jerome County Commissioner, paid for by Morley for Commissioner, Lorraine Morley, Treasurer. Right now, we're going to send it back over to our main studios. For this break, we'll be back in 3 minutes.
And now, back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KBAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244 or toll free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb Bell.
Oh, we're back on the air. I got to tell you, folks, kind of visualize this. We got 3 great, big, strong Matt Dillon types sitting here, and unfortunately in my studio I only have 2 headsets. Eric is blessed to have one all by himself, but Sheriff Heward and Sheriff McFall are trying to share one, and they're not joined at the hip, they're joined at the ear. It's not working so well.
No, it's not a headset. That picture is not a mental quality. It's earphones, and we are separated by a cord.
You go ahead and paint the picture any way you want to, okay? Don't forget, Richard Schaefer is running for Minidoka County Commissioner, and he wants your vote on May 17th. A lifetime resident of Minidoka County, Richard Schaefer pledges to you that he will promote positive growth, better county relationships, and more county fiscal responsibility. Vote for Richard Schaefer for Minidoka County Commissioner, May 17th. Paid for by Micheline Rowe, Treasurer. Okay, during the break, I brought up a couple of things that I wanted to discuss. In rural areas, and all 3 are rural areas as far as counties are concerned, Jerome, Minidoka, and Cassia County. I live out in a rural area, and I absolutely adhere to the point that you, as county sheriffs and your deputies, can't be everywhere all the time at the drop of a hat. Doug, what are a personal property owner's responsibilities, and what can they do and not do to protect their property and their families?
Well, you've got a right to protect your property, not at any cost, but at substantial cost. And, of course, my advice to everyone is, first off, get on the phone and call 911. Get the deputies or the police officers headed that way. Now, you mentioned family. When you start talking about your family or yourself being personally endangered, then by all means, that's when deadly force comes into play. To use deadly force to purely protect your property, I'd recommend the people to look up the code or go through one of the enhanced concealed weapon classes where someone teaches you the protocol and the laws for using deadly force.
Let me ask you a question there, all 3 gentlemen. I want you to have equal time on this, but I have been told in the past that, hey, if somebody backs a trailer into your yard and starts loading up your $20,000 roping horses or whatever, basically you can't take a gun outside to stop them. Is that right or wrong?
Well, that's going to be open up for interpretation by the courts and so forth. I
know what I'm going to do, Doug.
Well, and you told me what happened here a few years ago.
Yeah.
By all means, if I have someone breaking into my home or outside stealing property from me, absolutely, I'm going to hold them at gunpoint and call 911.
Absolutely.
And now, if they take off running away from me, and my life isn't feeling threatened, or my family or other citizens aren't being threatened at that time, am I going to pull the trigger? Well, not at that point. I'm not.
Jay, it would appear to me that in the last 2 decades, last 20 years, there has been a softening of the law to protect the perpetrator more so than the victim. Would you agree with that?
I would agree with that. I would say that I would agree with that. But it shouldn't be that way. Like Doug was saying, I'm going to be the same way. I'm going out in my yard with my gun and deal with it from there. But what I would tell people, don't put your personal safety or your family at risk.
I agree with that. I do. But the concept that was promoted to me after I had that run-in a couple of years ago is that the minute I step outside of my house, I'm actually at the wrong. Yeah. And I don't see it that way at all.
No, I don't either.
Okay. Eric, how would you respond to that?
I believe you are in the right. That's your property. You're defending your rights, keeping your property protected, your family's rights. When you go outside to confront a person that's like that, you don't know if they have a gun or not. You don't know how many people you're dealing with. But you have that right to protect your property and your life and your family's life. And if you see that there's harm in that, then that's something that you're there, that particular situation. That's just something you're going to have to go to the courts with. But the courts are set up that the defendant has more rights than the victim does.
Yeah. Yeah.
Victim does have a little bit of rights and stuff, but that's the way the courts are set up right now.
Is the liberalization of our laws and the court system in America, is this something that you think may turn around and come back, or are we going to see more liberalized crybaby attitudes as far as for the perpetrator?
I would hope that the legislatures would stand up and start looking at more laws, getting that signed by the governors and stuff, have more court rulings about what's good for the victims.
Okay.
Remember, we're the victims, they're the defendant. But they are innocent until proven guilty in a court of law, and that's not for law enforcement to decide. That's a judge and or a jury's job to decide that.
Absolutely. Now, Jay, you and I have talked personally right here in this office not too many weeks ago about a concealed weapons class that I think you head up right there in Cassia County. Is that right?
I do have a enhanced concealed weapons class this coming Saturday. It's free of charge to the public. However, I'm full.
You're full.
I'm full.
Okay.
We have right around 40, and that's all we can handle at one time. We'll more than likely throughout the summer and into the fall have more, but we're full.
You know, okay, gentlemen, let's face it, politically speaking, and I'm going to be very blunt, the Democrats headed up by Hillary Clinton, and she's made statements, and I have them in ink right here on my desk, that when asked over 2 months ago about gun control, she's come out and said that if she was elected president, she would very strongly look at the Australian gun confiscation program over in the country of Australia. Well, how does that make you feel, Doug, when you know that maybe if someone like her gets elected, all of us could be in jeopardy out in the rural areas because we can't protect ourselves?
Well, that's worked real well for them. Just ask some of their citizens over there what's happened and look at their crime statistics. Chicago, where they have very strong gun laws and so forth, one of the highest, if not the highest, per capita shooting and killing rate in our whole country. Fortunately, there's more citizens in our great country that are reasonable and not absolutely ridiculous, and we're starting to see that by this presidential election, what's taking place. The reason it's so crazy is there is a lot of people out there that are sick and tired of our federal government using our tax dollars the way they use them and taking stances that are totally against what our country stands for, in my mind, and that's my personal opinion. Unfortunately, it's even tore the Republican Party apart, but it's pretty crazy this year.
Let me go down the line on this question. All three of you, I believe, have the problem in your county. How big is it? And I'm talking about gangs. Are they becoming more as far as increasing numbers and more of a threat? What are your thoughts, Doug? Start with you.
Well, and we were talking earlier about some of the incidences this past couple years in Jerome County, and we've connected more than one absolutely to the gang issues. We've been in touch with the Treasure Valley law enforcement. The gangs are moving back and forth. Some of their shooters up there are from Jerome County. So, yeah, gangs are definitely a problem, and I think they've been a problem for a few years, but I think that's starting to either come to light or it's getting worse, one of the two.
What about Cassia County, Jay?
Same for us, Zeb. Where we see it mostly is in the drug trade.
Really?
Yeah, that's where.
Is it growing as far as numbers of people that are participants in the gangs, or is it the same old?
It seems to remain steady.
Really? If you know who these people are, and you've already put them through the court system once, is the court system too lenient on these people?
Some of those folks are doing 25 years. I don't think they're too lenient. There's just more behind them coming up to do the same job.
So what do you do? I mean, your hands are kind of tied, aren't they?
No, we just keep fighting the war.
Okay. Is it a war you can win?
I think it's a war we can stay abreast of.
Okay. How about over in Minidoka County, Eric? If you know who the players are, and basically like what happened in Mexico with El Chapo, the drug lord, they've got him, and but it still doesn't cut the main problem. There's still a lot of drug trafficking coming over the border. So what do you do?
Keep doing our job each day. When we take down people that are involved in gangs and the drugs, somebody's there the next day to take over their spot. Then we start new cases in reference to that, start the investigations over.
Is it a winnable war? Because I talked to you one time right here in the studio office, and you have waged a winning war on drugs and knocked the numbers down in Minidoka County. But what about, you say, the resurgence with more people to take the bad guy's place? Are you winning that war?
Yes, we are. Those people that are getting younger, when you take down somebody who's older, larger, bigger, somebody still has to move in to be their suppliers and stuff like that and to promote the gang activities. The younger the people that are getting is in the juveniles. We have to deal with in the juvenile court until they commit adult crimes to get adjudicated over to the adults.
How do these gangs come in? I want to ask all three of you this question because I'm really kind of naive about this, but how do they, the gangs, regardless of whether it's the Crips, the Bloods, or whomever, how do they come in and recruit these kids?
They start by moving up from, I'm not saying everybody in California, but a lot of the individuals come out of California and back east, move into this area, and they start recruiting. It's a life that their families are trying to get them away from, out of, and they show up into here, or they go down there to visit and see what kind of a lifestyle they have down there when they have unlimited amounts of cash, guns, money, drugs, everything. They come back here, then they start recruiting here.
Jay, if you know who these people are and these families, or the teachers in the school system know who they are, whatever, can you nip this problem in the bud? Can you get these kids and hopefully get them back on the straight and narrow? What do you do?
Well, over in Cassia County, we currently have a drug recognition program within the schools. We have education for kids in the schools. Sometimes it's hard when an older brother or an uncle or an aunt or somebody is in that trade. Sometimes those kids just gravitate that direction.
What about you?
Do what we can through education.
And is a lot of it detective work to try to find out these people? Are you kind of infiltrating the schools or different organizations or whatever? How do you find these people?
There's a whole bunch of detective work that goes into it, and sometimes we get a lot of help from the public with information.
What about you, Doug, over in Jerome County?
Well, I was just watching one of the Boise TV station news this week, and there's a fellow that actually pulled out his retirement, started a martial arts school over there, and he just stopped a couple of young men on the street and got talking with them, and they were both gangbangers, you know, member of the gangs over there in the Caldwell, Nampa area, and lo and behold, he turned their life around, and now they're actually teaching younger kids about these self-protection and martial arts, and I was really impressed that one individual could turn a couple lives around like that, and that just follows through. You know, we have that in our jails. A lot of times you'll have someone that's hit their lowest, and when I've got a young man or woman that's headed down that bad road, I'll bring him in the jail and let him talk to someone that's been there. And a lot of these inmates, both in the county jails and the state correctional system, are willing to help out these young folks. I think we can turn lives around, but they've got to want to do it in the back of their mind. Just like a drug habit person, they're not going to get off drugs until they want to.
And a lot of these kids, you can all kind of speak in unison on this. I'm assuming that some of these kids are in elementary grade school years, aren't they? 12, 13 years of age, is that right?
Yes.
True, yes.
So, I mean, my goodness, that's scary to me that they'd end up in a life in a gang and crime. I think a lot of us, my age, are naive, are we not?
Yes and no.
Explain that.
The people who are our age turn around and look at that and see that we have a gang problem and recognize it, and there's people that say there's no gangs here. We're Little Rupert, Idaho. There's no gangs here.
And, you know, I think that was perpetrated, and I'm going to point the finger a couple of years ago at our Times News. Basically, it was a whitewash, I thought, of some of the problems. We are developing. Look at, my God, gentlemen, we had a drive-by shooting killing a student in Twin Falls the other day. And if you don't think the big city is coming to this area, you're nuts. How would you respond to that?
It's here.
All right, Jay?
We have, the big city is here. We have problems.
And they're going to grow.
I believe so.
Okay.
You know, I saw a newspaper article not too long ago. It showed a photograph of first graders. There was a first graders in a photograph with gang hand signs flashing in the photograph.
Oh, my
first graders. Now, where did they learn that from?
Absolutely. How would you respond to that? It's here, isn't it, Doug?
Well, and of course, this, unfortunately, was a mass tragedy that's right in the news and so forth, but it's not new. We've been having drive-by shootings in the entire Magic Valley. Each one of us, in Twin Falls, Gooding, even Lincoln, all the counties have been involved with drive-by shootings. In fact, Jerome, I know at least 6 or 8 in the last year.
You're kidding?
That many, and it's just usually over drug debt or gang activity, turf wars, you name it. It's happening right here in the Magic Valley.
We got to get a weather forecast in here, and we're going to wrap things up with these three gentlemen. Thank you very much. Scarrows Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome, our weather sponsor for this hour, changing the way we eat one delicious bite at a time. Your hometown meat cutter with Don Scarrow and the crew at Scarrows Meats, 324-7657. Here's Gina with the weather.
The middle of the week, and we are on the downhill slide for the weekend, and we've got to be thankful for that. Sunny skies for today, high of 66. Tonight, low of 38 tomorrow. It's going to be even nicer, sunny and 77. Mostly sunny and 83 for Friday, partly cloudy and 83 for Saturday. And as we get into Sunday, more clouds are going to be rolling in, and we do have a slight chance of some afternoon rain showers on Sunday. That's your weather for 7th Ranch.
Thank you very much, Gina. Brought to you this hour by Scarrows Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome, 324-7657. They are changing the way we eat one delicious bite at a time. Also, don't forget, Representative Clark Kaufman urges you to vote May 17th in the primary election. He is working to keep Idaho a business-friendly state with tax policies that are fair and equitable for businesses and individuals. Thank you for the opportunity to serve as your District 25 representative, paid for by the committee to elect Clark Kaufman, Debbie Kaufman, Treasurer. I'm going to go around the table here real quick, and I want each of the sheriffs that are here this morning to talk about certain problems that you're really going to devote your time and effort to if you're reelected in your respective counties. Doug, we'll start with you.
Of course, my big concern is getting the jail up and running. It's pretty much done. They're doing finish up work right now. I've got crews fixing some little squawks and so forth. Unfortunately, I had obtained a no-cost generator from the military that came through Clearwater County, and that generator, when we had it checked out by the Cummins dealership up in Boise, ended up having a bad motor, and so we had to order a replacement motor. One of them things, I was trying to save some costs when we were cutting costs early on, and unfortunately got a motor with a problem in it. But that gel, I want to get it up and running. I want to get those beds full and start making that as a productive tool for Jerome County. And
You've worked really hard on that, haven't you?
It's been a long road. The commissioners and myself have worked very hard on that, and I'll tell you, I'm very proud of the facility. We're going to do everything we can to have an open house before we start filling it full of inmates, and I invite everyone, when we announce that, to come on out and take a look at this facility. It is going to be a pretty neat operation as far as Idaho goes.
All right, Sheriff Doug McFall from Jerome County. Jay Heward, Cassia County. What are some of the problems that really loom as very important for you if you're reelected?
Over in Cassia, we're going to continue our community policing program. We're going to continue the never-ending war on drugs. We'll be assisting our task force with Sheriff Snar. Keep that going. I've got to focus, too, on raising some wages for our guys and gals at the Sheriff's Office and getting more people on the street.
Okay.
A couple, but I want to get done.
All right, we're going to go to Eric, and I heard that we have a caller. Caller, stand by. One more from Eric Snar, and then I'll get your call on the air. Thank you. Go ahead, Eric.
If I'm reelected to the office of the Sheriff for the People, I'm going to continue on with my campaign promises I made a couple of years ago. My relentless pursuit in drugs and other related crimes in Minidoka County. What I need to do is to take care of that. I have 19 officers, including myself, working for me. I'm up to full staff. I have good equipment. I've had the last 2 officers that we have hired at Minidoka County who have actually taken a pay cut to come to work for Minidoka County. I am not the lowest paid sheriff's office in the valley, but I'm not the highest paid either. The commissioners are currently working on getting our wages up so I don't become a training ground.
I found a note of humor here, if I can go ahead and expand on it. Lower wages, but a box of donuts every day, right?
Not a box of donuts. Type of administration that we have, as well as the equipment that we have to offer our deputies.
Take that as just good, clean humor, please.
Absolutely.
Caller, go ahead. You're on the air.
Yeah, Zeb, I haven't been able to listen to the whole program, but the sovereignty of the county and the sheriff being the head of the sovereign county, and what happened in Harney County with Lavoy Finicum, and how it was a needless death, and whether or not we agreed with why they were there or not. A man lost his life. If the sheriff isn't going to take charge of protecting his constituents, who is? And I'll hang up.
Well, we had talked about that earlier, Randy, in the hour, but I'm going to go down the line real quick. Short answers on this. Doug, you start. The sheriff, again, is the man in the county.
Well, the citizens of that county elected the sheriff, and our job is to protect the rights and the Bill of Rights, especially of the citizens, and I'm all for that, and I think that I need to stand up for that. I don't agree with a lot of things that the federal government, the way they operate, and I've exposed myself to that.
Jay?
I would echo what Doug said, and I also agree. We need to be standing up. I'm not happy with what happened over there, and I don't think there's times if I'm faced with that, whether they get a stronghold in my county will be all up to me.
Okay, and Eric.
That's the sheriff's job, is to stand up for the rights of the people in his county and the residents that are there. I believe the same with the other 2 sheriffs, that it is going to be the sheriffs, in my own opinion, is going to have to stand up across this nation, stand up for their people's rights.
Okay. I've got to tell everybody about our great sponsor, and that's, of course, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you with the very best in tires, many of which are on sale right now. And for your cars, pickups, SUVs, horse trailers, boat trailers, they've got every kind of tire for all driving needs. Be sure and stop by. Convenient credit terms available, and and a free pre-trip safety check, too. Ask them about that, along with the best in brake service, front-end alignment, shocks and struts, and, of course, a battery for all your needs. All of this plus the best in service at all 7 locations of your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. You stop in and see our friends today at Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family in Paul, Daniel on Pole Line in Twin Falls, and my buddy Randy on Overland in Burley. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Real quick, let's go down the line. We'll start with Eric. Why do you want to get reelected as Minidoka County Sheriff? Real quick.
Continue my relentless pursuit in reference to drugs and other related crimes.
Okay. Jay Heward, Cassia County. What's your thoughts?
I'm the same way. I'm not done yet. I got more to do.
I like that. I'm not done yet. Okay. And Doug McFall.
I've got a few projects that I want to follow up on and finish up, just like the other sheriffs. And real quick, I was talking about the support of the citizens in Idaho. And Zeb, you're a prime example of that. And that's what makes the job worth it to our young officers out there. Advocates like yourself. You and I don't always agree with every topic that's out there, but by gosh, I know that you've got law enforcement's back, and I just want to tell you, I truly appreciate that. That is a great aptitude to the officers.
I appreciate that. I think the job that all 3 of you do and your staffs is just not, there's not enough money, and there's not enough public gratitude that can be heaped upon you, because I think all of you do a wonderful job, and I mean that. Thank you, Sheriff Doug McFall of Jerome County, Minidoka County Sheriff Eric Snar, and Cassia County Jay Heward. Thanks for being on the program. And I promise that Doug McFall and Jay Heward will not have to wear the same headset the next time. I'll make arrangements to have a better deal. We're going to send it back over to our main studios in just a moment. I want to remind everybody we'll be back here tomorrow morning at 8:06. Ride the horse for 3 hours from 8:06 to 11 o'clock. And remember, the way things were are the way things ought to be. And remember to go vote on May 17th. Thank you so much. Back over to Wheels at our main studio.